debate, uncut, and after show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Thomas van der Zande, Canna Bear, Gary Hughes, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Mr. Amish, Sensual Goat, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMels24, Unimento, Iron26, Endless, Gold McKinnon, Retro Bill, Level Playing Poem, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B. Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Rob W., Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Chow Young Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
All right.
How you all doing?
We're doing good. I looked up the how to say in Latin argument from ignorance. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, sure.
Argument ad ignorantium. Sounds much more fancier, no? Argument ad ignorantium. Argument ignorantium. All right, whatever. Yeah, because one thing I know people when you tell them argument from ignorance, it kind of sounds offensive a little bit, and I try to avoid offending people. So one of the definitions for argument from ignorance is absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So I generally like to just get to the base of it and just tell them, hey guys, if there's absence of evidence, it doesn't mean that that is necessarily evidence of absence, right? It kind of seems similar to the fallacy, right? Just because you haven't seen the evidence doesn't mean it's not there, right? Well, sometimes people just like to turn that into a positive claim and say, oh yeah, because I've never seen it, therefore it does not exist. No. Evidence could still be there.
So let me get this straight. Just because we don't see water contouring around orbs doesn't means that it could happen?
Well, you don't have to phrase it in a positive claim. And to debunk that, there's already evidence for that. So you could just stick to the statements that go against that. But I'm just saying, we're not supposed to saying something is a positive claim just because there's a lack of evidence for it is a positive claim, right? So if you're going to make a positive claim for that, at least you could support it, right? You can't just toss it and just leave it like that, right? If you're going to say there's no water doesn't do this, you can at least just provide the evidence of why water doesn't do that, right? Instead of just saying water doesn't do this because there's no evidence of it, right? So you could provide the evidence, right? Because that way I could say, hey, unicorns, what is it? Oh, the unicorn's the bad one too. Okay. Black swan. Let's say the black swan, right? There is no black swan. All swans are white because I've never seen a black swan, right? That's an argument from ignorance. You see, I just turned it into a positive claim. I say just because I've never seen black swans, therefore black swans don't exist. That's the fallacy, right? Does that make sense? Now, if you apply that to unicorns, because I've never seen unicorns, therefore unicorns don't exist, you kind of don't make your point as well as with the black swan one, right?
Not exactly. You only have to provide one black swan to disprove the original assertion that there are no black swans. You only need one black swan. disprove that argument. You're saying
Right.
originally it's not evidence to suggest that just not seeing one means there could be one. Well, yes, that is true. You need to substantiate your claim. But if there's a long-standing assumption, as is the case with swans, then you only need one black swan to disprove the argument. That's the point that Karl Popper's making with that particular, when he makes that argument.
Right. But yeah, logical fallacies. So how are you doing, Nathan? Everything good
Good.
today?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good to hear. Well,
At the request of Adam, he had a question that he wanted answering from some of the more popular flat earthers, let's call them, after Dave's performance on Jesse's show. So off the back of that, he got in touch with Witsit and basically asked him, what would you have said? And he showed me his question, and I basically took the same question and put it to Jaron. And he got back to me and basically said, well, I was a bit shocked as well to hear Dave not doing that, but I would have obviously said, I know it's not a ball, but I'd also know it's flat. Enough to satisfy me. I'm like, okay, well, that's a good enough answer. Good of him to respond in the first place, given that he presumably hates me because he doesn't know what science is. Nevertheless, based on the fact that he has at least answered the question, didn't have to, could have just ignored me. So I thought, fair enough. Not that he's asking for this, but I'll at least offer him the fallacy format that the Antarctica trip takes. So I did, in response. I said, here's how the Antarctica fallacy breaks down. If we assume antipodal positioning, then we will observe 24-hour sun in Antarctica. We observe 24-hour sun in Antarctica, therefore antipodal positioning that I've assumed. That is to say, it's an affirming the consequent fallacy. So I broke it down for Jaron.
Oh no, no audio. Hang on.
Okay. Yeah, I broke it down for him and explained exactly how the fallacy works. Pretty much the same as I did for Bob Nodell. Not that did me any favours. The point being is, like it or lump it, he's out there representing us with the title of Flat Earth above his door. So, if he's going to be out there talking about Antarctica, at the very least he should understand the fallacy they're employing.
okay. Well, I got no comment on that, I guess.
It's back to the old attitude, which is to say, in that respect, okay, well, as much as everybody moans at me when I attempt to bring people like Jaron into line with the understanding that we've acquired over the last 10 years, I get told now he's a shill, now he's a lost cause, and I go, well, if these people are out there being ambassadors for us, unfortunately, that is the way it is. And if in this instance there's an ambassador that's going along with, is the kindest way I can put it, a fallacy from the opposing side, I at least want to make them aware of that, which I have done now. So at least I have a clear conscience. Because, you know, if we ever repeat a Netflix and people say, well, why don't you just get in touch with him and tell him? You know what I mean? I can at least say, hand on heart, I did. After establishing that he's definitely a flat earther, which, based on his answer, I would say Jaron is.
Yeah, I would say he is.
Yeah, but it becomes questionable, doesn't it, when one high up in the true Earth realm decries flat Earth, says it could be a really big ball, and when asked if he's a flat Earther, says I'd call myself a true Earther. Like, okay, well, I've got to now assume that that applies unilaterally to true Earthism. So you start asking the people who are in that part of that community, are you actually a flat Earther? And if they come back with a satisfactory answer, you go, well, fair enough. I won't give you a hard time over it then. Thanks for answering.
Well, I just noticed sometimes it seems like people are having don't like the term FE, even when I voice verify people. Sometimes people don't want that label, that tag on them that says FE. So I'll just give them like the neutral role. We got a neutral role, which is just Earther, right? We got Globe Earther, Flat Earther, and Earther. So I don't argue with them if they don't want it. Though I do know they're FE, but if they just don't like the label, I'm like, I'm fine with that. I'll just give you an Earther role, right? But I know they're FE, regardless of what they say, right? You just don't like the term.
That's fair enough. It's got a lot
Yeah.
of negative connotations attached to it, so you can understand why people don't like the term.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with Christianity, right? Like I notice I talk to some people and I'm wondering, are you a Christian? And they don't like that term either because some people don't represent that name so well. But at the end of the day, the Bible says you're a Christian, and not then I'm a Christian. I don't know. I keep it simple, right? That's not. But I can understand as to why people think like this and their reasoning for that. But it doesn't change what you are.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, in terms of the categorization of people in the Skype groups or Discord in this case, does it matter? Like, do you get any extra privileges for being one or the other? I'll take that as a no.
No,
Not
you
on
get
Discord.
called a liar when you address something.
You have to be more specific, Neil.
Well, when Paula made her statements and tried to educate people on Mandela effect, she got called a liar.
Oh, God. Really? Oh, that was a good conversation, Killer Neil. Well done.
I'm in my brother's truck. I don't want you to get all the background noise.
Did you guys get my text about the electrician?
Alrighty then. Brian pointed me the direction of Candace Owens, black girl that we covered about 3 weeks ago. Do you remember? Have I got her name right?
Yeah, that's the two comments from.
Well, he wanted me to specifically go and look up a couple of parts of a video where she mentions flat Earth. And although it was a comment response, so it's probably not something we'll cover because it's her reading out one of her own comments, which is fine. It's just not enough for us to get our teeth into. But what she did say was, I definitely don't believe the moon landings. It's not that bad.
Nathan, I think you should listen to her because she doesn't know what science is.
There's no leaks.
Thanks. It's good to know straight through the middle of what I was saying about her. Alrighty then, I'll carry on, I guess. So she's responding to a comment, and what she actually said was, I know the moon landings aren't real. I know there's a load of fakery. And then she gave a mild form of apologetics for general deceit in the world. And then she plugged Bart Zabral's book, along with one other that I was unfamiliar with. So she said that she'd read A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. Fair enough. So she's a moon landing denier, at the very least.
I'm going to try to get this in quick. If you listen to the video, what she thinks is science is pseudoscience. She is leaving the religion of science because she thinks it's pagan.
You guys got
Okay, I think I got most of that. yes, like most people, she doesn't know what science is. Nevertheless, it tells you where the state of the general public is. The quicker they warm up to the idea they've been lied to about the moon landings, it's far easier to tolerate the whole notion of space being fake if you already realise that they've lied about one particular aspect of it. You're opened up to the notion of a more expansive and extensive lie. There's been a whole bunch of things in the last 4 years that people have started to realise they've been lied to generally, and then they're slightly more open to look at other things that they potentially wouldn't have before, with a complete trust for their authorities. Somebody recommended a video for today, so we're going to be covering Science Out, very small YouTube channel. Measuring the elevation angles works on a globe is the name of the video. Sent me a super chat yesterday, one of the Uncut and After shows, saying, "Can you cover this video?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Yeah, we'll cover that, and I'm sure there's been a few days of not having a show that people have got. There'll be a few things people want to cover, hopefully. We shall see. Picked up 50 new subscribers over the weekend.
Is that from politics?
No, from Eric Dubay. So Eric Dubay made a
Oh.
video about the futility of debates, and after being informed by QE that he'd made the video within an hour of him making it, big shout out to QE for doing that, because as soon as I saw it, I recognised the importance of it. And left a comment, thanked him for shouting me out, because he does within the first minute or so. And then made my own video directing initially members, but then I just released it to the public, to go and like my comment thanking him for shouting me out, and then just leave a little reply. Now, the comments that me thanking him for a reply, or thanking him for a shout out with a timestamp, I should say, has got, I don't know, 200 plus thumbs up on that comment, and more than that in terms of replies. It's got like 250 comments below it. So it's right near the top, which means that people will go to that video. Eric's far more popular, if not the most popular flat earther currently, and see him talking about debates, and there's my comment thanking him for the shout out. So that has resulted in 50 subscribers. Obviously, he's not making a video about me and putting a link about me in a video about me, which would make a massive difference. He's not doing that. It was just off the cuff. Nathan's had debates and won them. Moving on. It wasn't a massive shout out, but it was enough in a video specifically titled Flat Earth Debates for me to, get a comment that's got a lot of likes on it to push people to this channel, which it has. It's like I say, you wouldn't expect a one-word shout-out or, whatever, to generate 50 over the last couple of days, and it has, as a testament to people commenting or replying to my comments. So thank you if you did that. I really do appreciate it. It has made a difference. It has directed people to the channel. So it's really hard to get growth, or substantial growth. I'll get steady growth and do something if I don't, but to get like a bulk of subscribers just arrive is a task to get that to happen. So I'm very grateful that it has. It's nice to get like a whole bunch of people turn up.
Well, my brother stopped and I can talk. I don't want to get all the background noise. That's why I was on mute. I left a few comments in there. So I hate that he lumped you in with it. That's the only thing that bothered me.
Don't worry about it. It's a pretty short
Anyway,
list, Neil. of two
Blastoid
people.
has some things to say too. That's another backstabber. I can't believe it. You know what? I don't want to deal with anybody no more, Nathan. I'm gonna come on Flat Earth Debate, QE, Ballbusters, and that's it. I am done with everybody.
People stab you in the back, and people perceive being stabbed in the back when you're actually trying to help them. It's just that's the way life goes, Neil.
Yeah, but at least tell the truth. Don't freaking lie.
People
Tell
lie.
the truth.
Everyone lies.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. But there was an incident that happened, and all you did was ask him to tell this guy to stop spamming lies about you, or whatever video it was. Am I correct on that?
Do you really want to talk about the gossip that you've had over the weekend? You did it a minute ago.
Wasn't the weekend. It was
again with someone
yesterday. It was yesterday. It wasn't the weekend. It was Monday. And when I hear nonsense, I'm going to call it out no matter what it is. Got a guy calling you a prick on the air, which is a slap in the face, but at least get it straight. Because if it was done the other way around, the moderators would have handled it. If anybody would have came in our chat saying things about Flatsoid, it would have been handled. He wouldn't even have to contact you. So if you're not going to defend yourself, then I'll freaking defend you.
Don't need to. If people stab me in the back, I turn my back on them, right? And then at some point they go, "Oh, hang on, you're not shouting me out and promoting me and sending people to my..." And I'm like, "No, well, you screwed me over, so why would I do that?" I've turned my back on you. I'm not interested anymore. Don't care what you do. And then they go, "Well, that's detrimental to me." And then they start moaning. That's what you're seeing. Yeah? Now, I try and avoid that unless it's on topic. If it's on topic, I'll blart on about it all day long for weeks on end. Yeah? This person's not doing a good job about fighting for our subject matter. Yeah? When it comes to, I'm not going to, I don't care what you're getting. Yeah? I'll support you to the ends of the world if you're doing a good job, trying your best, and just a generally good person. When you stop being any of those things, it's like, well, it doesn't benefit me to support you. Yeah, so I'll just stop doing that then. And then they get
according to them, we're detrimental by claiming and on the front foot going forward, saying it is what it is, Earth is measured flat. That's detrimental. So they got things twisted.
Don't worry about it, Neil. The arguments that we... The arguments that we have here stand alone, Neil. You don't have to worry about their validity. They work if they work. If they fail, they'll fail and be refined, dropped, whatever. Right? Now, if somebody out there is saying, "Oh, these arguments are crap," yeah, that's what we deal with here. We're a debate show. Yeah? Now, if let's call it what it is, a competing videographer says, "That person's no good," you're like, okay. I don't know why you want to do that. With a YouTube hat on, I will literally shout out and praise and send people to my opponent's videos. Don't I? Yeah? It's the complete antithesis of what the dicks around us do when they don't feel like they're getting something they should be getting. Well, you know, we're not going to... I'm stopping you from moaning about the gossip that you've been dealing with over the weekend, regardless of who it's from. If it's not on topic, I don't want to know. Don't get me wrong, there's a limit. You can do it a little bit in the pre-show, and you have been, and we are. But, you know, obviously that stops when we get to being live, and it doesn't help. So you won't hear me moaning about this, right? At the point that I stop promoting a given channel, that's it. You didn't even mention that person again, did you, Neil?
No, but I don't when something's being said about somebody that I consider my friend, I have to step in and say, "Excuse me, that's not how it went down."
I don't know. I see it as futile. It's the same as appealing to NASA when they've lied to you. Why have you lied? Why have you betrayed me? Just turn your back on them. If they're no good, and you find that out, then walk away. The mistake is It's going back to them, in my opinion.
I guess so. What you sow is what you reap, because they said you sowed someone's vulgarity and now you're reaping it. So I don't know
Okay.
where this guy's at, but
If they say
that's
so.
it. You won't hear anything from me.
Again, people are entitled to their opinion. If they want to suggest that this show is what? Not growing, it is. Not getting views, it is. Because of vulgarity. Well, that's a non sequitur. It's a conclusion based on a false premise. So who cares? It doesn't matter. In this instance, this is somebody that should be on our side and what? Doesn't like what we do anymore. All right. I'm sure that person was all for what we did when they were being promoted by us. Correct?
Yep.
Well, there you go. Well, that speaks volumes to the people who have got half a brain. Neil, actions speak louder than words. What I do is tend to promote people around me, support them, and thank the people who have instilled that in me to make me want to do it, because we've got a good community. Now, quite often people in that community get a bit big for their boots and then start slagging everybody off. Now, that can be the perception of us, as I said earlier, but it's on topic. If we're moaning, what are we moaning about? We're moaning about Dave Weiss saying it's a big ball, or it could be a big ball. Yeah, that's what we're moaning about.
Right. That's the whole thing. If we hear bad arguments and they're representing us, we go on. Well, should we say the attack? No. We try to educate the audience on what's going on.
Right. Got a topic, we cover the topic. If there's a discussion point in the topic, it'll get drawn out to the nth degree till it's absolutely settled. As for people's personalities and feelings and their channels, with a YouTube hat on, I just don't care. Yes, I'll support you if you're going to scratch my back. If you stick a knife in it, I'll just turn my back on you.
Yeah, but sometimes I don't, don't fabricate something. Don't say, because I stood up to Nathan. You stood up to Nathan? Would you Oh, if he was in front of me, I'd smack him.
Look, like I say, it depends on the circumstances also, so not to contradict what I've just said, but in the case of certain fruit, it is worth the squeeze. You have to bite your tongue, accept that these people have been cruel in some way towards you, and see the greater picture, the greater good. Exactly the case with me contacting Jaren to, first of all, say, I was actually hoping he would not answer, because I could then give up on him completely. Where you guys all want to say, why do you keep appealing to Jaren? Why do you keep trying to chase him down? Why do you keep offering him the arguments? Why do you keep trying to teach him what science is? All he does is slag you off. Like, yeah, but he is a representative of this subject. Therefore, that is my primary concern. And as much as it irritates me that he attacks me personally, claims I'm a scammer, etc., doesn't change the arguments and what he could potentially do for them. Therefore, I still appeal to him. So when I asked him, admittedly at the behest of Adam, are you still a flat earther? That's not what I asked. It was a lot longer question. And he answered, yes. It was a lot longer answer. That was enough for me to say, okay, well then, this juice is still worth the squeeze, isn't it? Much to the frustration of everyone around me, I know what my objectives are. And if he still falls in line with those objectives, still going to appeal to him. Now, he's higher up the chain though, isn't he? Compared to other flat earthers who slag me off that are lower down the chain, often just jealousy. Now, in some instances, you could, if you chose to, ascribe the same motivation to me when appealing to Jaren. Not true. I see the benefit that the subject could have for him having a greater reach. I'm not appealing to him to promote me. I'm appealing to him to know the arguments better. There's a difference. Now, in certain instances, in the same way, there's been people who have perceived what I'm doing to be argumentative, disagreeable, not pleasant, when I'm saying your argumentation's wrong, flawed. Well, in those instances, the outcome is the same, which is to say they stick a knife in your back, start slagging you off, etc., in spite of your best of intentions. You're absolutely not wanting to go out your way to attack them personally. But there we go. That's life. That's the road. That's the very, very precarious road that we negotiate, Neil. And in terms of people's personalities and how we have to deal with them on a day-to-day basis, sometimes people can be awkward. And sometimes the juice definitely isn't for squeezing. And you just kick that to the curb, you walk away and just never think about it again. If that berry happens to roll past your path again in the wind, you pay it no attention.
Ten-four.
Life's too short. You've got to prioritise things. Got to be more careful. I'm making myself sick. Literally, physically ill by overworking. I'm at about the limit of how much I can do, generally speaking, day to day. If I add anything on top of that, it tends to stress me out because I've not got enough hours today to do the normal things. You know what I mean? So it was like that a couple of years ago when the guy who bought this computer wanted me to do all sorts of expansion to the show in terms of other platforms that were less popular than YouTube. It just stressed me out because it was extra work I didn't have the time for. Same at the moment. I'm currently involved in writing a book, and as soon as you get into the serious nature of writing a real book that's actually going to be published, there's so many people around it making it happen, and the amount of time that it takes is considerably longer than you might expect, and it just all gets very stressful because of the time. I don't have the time to do it, really. Anyway, burning the candle at both ends, and you eventually make yourself sick, which is precisely what happened over the weekend. However, I've spent the majority of the weekend in bed and I feel a lot better now. It'd be good if some of the people who are chit-chatting behind the scenes would actually join the live show. Ryan chatting in Skype. Is that all you've got to talk about, Neil? Is it gossip or nothing? About anybody in Discord? Anything happened over the weekend that was exciting?
Yeah, we had a guy in here talking about how we reify the celestial sphere in the show, and how that is like a disproof of our own position. Why the celestial sphere is a flat Earth proof if there's two axes to the global positioning.
It is what it is. I mean, you can call it a reification. I like it when they actually believe they're standing on an extrapolation from these measurements. That's fine. When we just say, yeah, we're standing on the thing we're measuring. Oh, that's a reification. No, that's how we measure it. You measure it that way too, to turn it into a globe, to think you're standing on it. And of course, that's cool by their standards.
Yeah, but specifically the celestial poles that apparently we're advocating that exist in reality. And this show.
Well, they are based on things that have been measured, the stars. While I will concede that there isn't a point above the South Pole, that is referenceable, there's a claim that there's Sigma Octantis, but it's not visible. There's a whole load of nonsense that surrounds it too. But admittedly, there is still stars that rotate about a perceived point in the south. And you can still plot all those with respect to a flat plane, which is where we get all the information in the almanac from. They've all been measured. with respect to a flat plane and their angles. So when they say we're reifying it, well, no, I don't think we're standing inside a literal sphere. When I describe it, I describe that model being derived from the parallel plane and sky that we're measuring. Parallel sky, that means flat. Well, when they say we're reifying a sphere, no, that's the perspective view that's put into the model. It's just a model used for mapping and navigating very successfully. It also successfully turns into a globe. So what? Doesn't change the measurements. That's all we're going by. How does this stuff originate? On the ground, flat, with angles? That's all that matters.
But I think the only point I can concede would be that we might not want to use that in our vernacular, the celestial sphere. I think I heard Brian catch himself saying that.
Yeah, well, he's correct. What we've actually got is two different separate hemispherical representations of two flat planes and flat skies, with the stars being used to create the almanac and the north and south, respectively, pulled to a point. This is all Brian's description. I wish he was here. I've just asked him if he's going to join. But yeah, you have got those systems measurable to then create two antipodal flat planes and wrap the other antipodal hemisphere around the bottom of the first, creating what we now fondly refer to as the celestial sphere. But it is just that. It's two flat plane hemispherical models representing the perspective view of the stars, sandwiched on top of one another, antipodally. That's it. That's all it is. Well, if you suggest that we are actually antipodal when we go to the south, then yeah, that would be our reification of an antipodal positioning that's being assumed, albeit with a sphere beneath your feet, when they do the Antarctic quote-unquote experiment. It's an antipodal assumption. Well, they get their antipodal assumption, aka globe, with the south on the bottom of it, from the celestial sphere and its antipodal reference to a flat plane, one on top of the other. It's two flat planes that they use to derive the sphere in essence. But who cares? You need a flat plane. They're made from flat plane measurements of angles off the ground, flat, to the stars, with their elevations being the angle. That's it. So there's nothing more to it. You know, from there you can do all sorts of things, including create a globe, but I don't care about any of them. In many ways, I don't really care about the navigation aspect either. It is what it is. And am I out there using this? No. Do I care? Not really. Other than to undo people's perception of being on a globe when we're not. Or as a inroad to get people to understand how Earth's actually measured. Or converted to a globe if they want to relinquish themselves of that belief. But do I really care? No.
It is a kind to the trying to talk about pressure gradient or density gradient when responding to the need for a container.
Yeah, when they appeal to delta X. I mean, you can't have pressure gradients without containment. Furthermore, their appeal to the delta X has a flat plane in the description. It's the heights of these pressures with respect to surface level, sea level. I got it in the neck for that because QE was like, why are you going down this road of begging the question? I'm like, I'm just really excited about how every single aspect of globe belief starts its life in a flat earth measurement. And I want to take them there every time they use it. It's like, yeah, but you're then assuming you can have gas pressure gradients to argue about how they use a flat plane to describe them without addressing the containment issue. I'm like, yeah, me getting overexcited about all roads leading to a flat earth, isn't it? You've got to overcome the fact that you can't have gas pressure gradients without gas pressure, and gas pressure requires containment. It's just a delta X argument. And then point out that their delta X argument ultimately needs a flat plane to describe either way. Containment is required, and the description will come from a flat plane.
Well, we all can't be QE. How you can just come in and hear an entire 20 minutes worth of conversation and cut it down by asking him one question. So, saying, what is a mile? You know?
Yeah, he's good at that, isn't he?
the best I've seen, to be honest.
Doesn't mean everybody else can't be just as good as QE. I would bet that half the viewers who are regulars are 50% as good as QE if they were put in the circumstances to have to be. Rubs off. If you hear it over and over again, that's how education works. And that's exactly
Repetition.
what I see this as. You know, the fact that we get it in the neck because we will discuss the subject, debate the subject with our opponents. It's still an educational channel. It has been from day one. This is education. Understanding how Earth actually works is education. Doesn't matter if you're on the bull side. If you're learning how you take those measurements and convert them, as on screen with PZX triangles, to create a surface you're not standing on, with measurements coming from the centre of it, then that's up to you. But understanding the origins of how the world is measured is just education. That's all it is. Hopefully we do a good job of teaching people that the Earth is flat.
Seems to be working all right so far. That's why I come every day. You get enough of it in the media the other way, so you need something to repeat it and, rub in the arguments properly.
Exactly. One of the things that we get criticised for is being repetitive. It's like, no, we are slowly adding to the mechanism. It ticks slightly differently each day. But yeah, you do have to keep banging the same drum over and over again if you expect people to understand it. Otherwise, people move on, forget the points that have been argued about over and over again. And when they get recycled 10 years later, exactly as is the case, we're still here going, yeah, we've covered all this hundreds of times. So you reaffirming the consequent with a different claim with Antarctic sun isn't going to phase us when we've been doing it for 10 years. It's just rinse and repeat. Same old stuff. 10 years later, still the same old stuff. Especially if we haven't stopped covering it, which we haven't.
Yeah. Repetition legitimizes.
Neil was saying earlier that people are moaning about whether or not the quality of the arguments is up to snuff. Fine. If you don't think the arguments are up to snuff, don't have to use them. Nobody's twisting your arm. However, for all the people who do use them and absolutely annihilate their opponents, people pay attention to that.
Yeehaw!
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello. Well, moderately warmed up. We've had a bit of a gossipy start to the pre-show today, as is the case when you have a little nap. I was off yesterday with a mouth full of all sorts of infections. Definitely burning the candle at both ends, doing too much. But there we go. I'm back in the driving seat. It's good to be back. Hope you're all out there sharing the show as you would be normally. 30 of you that are immediately here waiting for the show to start. Good to have you all. We will do a couple of housekeeping questions, though, just to keep our hand in. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
That'll be a no then.
I was going to say exactly that.
I mean, if my job involves gas, moving gas around and transferring gas to different parts of the system, it's a hermetically sealed system, and the gas that I use in the job is always in a cylinder contained. I wouldn't be able to transport it or move it around otherwise.
Yeah, you can't have gas pressure without containment. What would it press upon? Of course, that does mean for your average normie audience member that they may not appreciate the implications of such a statement, which is to say that outer space is fake. If the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we breathe, that would be at high pressure, would expand into the area of volume at high rate of speed, leaving us with no gas to breathe. we'd all be dead if the sky was a vacuum. It's not. Space is fake. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? That's a horizon formerly known as Earth curvature.
Well, that's a funny one, because when you do look at the Earth curve calculator, it's actually showing you and demonstrating how it's actually a flat horizontal level measurement, nothing to do with curvature whatsoever.
Indeed, they're giving the descriptions in the mathematics for things like heights of you and the observation itself, the point you are looking at, above sea level. They're also calculating where they suggest that Earth curve, in their maths below surface level, would be derived if you raise an altitude and utilise the fact that eye level remains parallel with surface level to infer there is an Earth curve, as I suggest, below surface level in their maths. They need a flat Earth and an eye level parallel with the flat Earth to derive the inference of an Earth curve below surface level when ignoring perspective and calling it Earth curve.
How bizarre.
They need a flat Earth too. Heights of everything is described with respect to sea level. Therefore, asking me how a 600-foot mountain or hill is obscured by something to the tune of a value that doesn't change with distance in feet would only require us in 2024 to take them to their calculator and point out that surface level is flat in their own maths. Then it goes with the gas pressure argument. I caught it in the neck on Ballbusters last Saturday because in arguing for the flat plane requirement to describe gas pressure differentials, that's gas pressure gradients, a delta of the gas pressure that must have containment in order to form pressure, it was pointed out that I skipped a step and went immediately to the flat Earth requirement to describe the heights off surface level. Describing the actual pressure differences from sea level would require a flat plane of reference, but it doesn't undo the fact that the sky vacuum is still inferred if I do that first. Shout out to QE. Can't have gas pressure without a container, and the description of gas pressure deltas that require containment, that's gradients, need a flat Earth to describe them from. That would be the complete statement, undoing space and proving Earth is measured flat. Big shout out to Eric Dubay, who covered the futility of flat Earth debate, which at surface level, if you read that title, you might go, oh, that'll be very negative to a show called Flat Earth Debate. Well, no. He's pointing out the negativity from the people who've hijacked the algorithm. That would be your Professor Daves, your Simon Dans, your Fight the Flat Earths, who have essentially taken the algorithmic love that was offered us pre-2018, and at the behest of Congress, YouTube have offered this algorithmic favourship to anybody who's decrying the notion that Earth is flat, pushing them obviously up the searches when anybody looks for the subject we cover. That would be flat Earth. Now, in so doing, they've also enticed quite a number of flat earthers onto their platforms to be shouted down, berated, demeaned by their opponents, with very little being conceded, discussed at all in many instances about flat Earth. And that was the main criticism of Eric Dubay. He also promoted myself and Witsit for essentially winning debates, which was nice to hear. So I gave him a little comment that said thank you for the shout out and timestamp when he shouted me out, and then invited the audience, originally just members, and then I opened up the video that I'd made to the general public to suggest going to Eric's video and thanking him or letting him know I've sent you or something to that effect underneath my comment, so that it means that when someone comes to a video from possibly the biggest flat earther currently, which is Dubay, and sees it's about debates and then sees me thanking him in the comments, there's a reasonable chance that someone might actually toddle their way along to my channel and subscribe as a result of that, if they can find their way to me. Now, obviously, it not being a video specifically about me and this show, then he's not going to be putting links to this show when he's just mentioning in passing the fact that Witsit and myself have won debates when he's talking about that subject, and decrying the notion of it being possible in a world that's totally biased towards globe and has a preconceived notion that flat earthers are idiots. Brian's going to join. We'll talk about Candace in a second. Where was I? Brian, you completely threw me joining.
Just talking about the Eric Dubay.
Oh, yes. So big shout out to him. His mention has grown the channel by 50 subs over the weekend. So people have done exactly that. They've seen my comment thanking him and made their way to the channel and then let me know that that's how they've made their way to the channel. So, but for the fact that people had gone to Eric's video, obviously liked it and enjoyed watching it anyway. It's a flat Earth video that had good subject matter, flat Earth debate or flat Earth debates in general. And then promoted me up his comments list, which I'm very grateful for. It has made a difference. So there are literally 50 new people here as a consequence of that. So that is a testament. And that video is not going anywhere either. So over time, people will find their way to this channel as a result of Eric Dubay's video. And people in the first day or 2 days going to it and pushing my comment up the list so people can actually find their way here. So thank you if you did that, by the way. And obviously thank you to Eric for the shout out. In other news, Candace Williams' video was suggested to me by Brian.
Owens. Candace Owens.
Why do I keep calling her Williams?
I don't know. Maybe it's got to do with the Williams sisters, the tennis players. I don't know why you're doing that. But you do.
I was going to say, she doesn't play tennis.
Age, maybe?
We'll just call her Candace so I don't offend her by giving her a completely different name of a different person in a different arena. Again. It's Owens, right? Candace Owens, correct?
Candace Owens, yeah.
Candace. Oh, we're going to labour this indefinitely or what? Does someone just give me a name correctly?
Candace Owens.
Okay, so
That's
Brian recommended a Candace Owens video where she's covering not necessarily a related subject, but she's covering other stuff. But right at the end, she did mention it in the sort of first third as well, but right at the end, she covers in depth a comment that's from a flat earther, basically saying, don't give up on this subject, look into it more, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, off that comment, the bit that I found the most intriguing was when she said, I know the moon landings are fake. Like straight off the cuff, without even twitching. Did you notice how casually she rattled that off?
Yeah, no, she's been kind of bringing that up recently a bit, the moon landings, how she doesn't think for a moment that they happened. So she has been bringing that up recently. So I'm not surprised she's saying that because she's saying, there's no way. She doesn't trust any of it. She just doesn't trust anything really at this stage from the US government or governments in general. It's her lack of trust that has led her to, there's just no way that they did that, basically. So she's gone past step one, let's just say. Or maybe she's gone further, but she's not saying it to her audience. Because if she's a flat earther, she's not going to come out and just say it to her audience because it might end up alienating some of the audience. But she's just kind of willing to entertain it. She did have a shorts. When she was on Daily Wire, there was a shorts video came out of some kind, or maybe it was from a main show, where she did bring it up. And I left a comment there, but I never got any response to it. But that was a good while after the shorts video came out. But she brought out a video, just a kind of a quick live chat, a 12-minute live chat she had with her audience, or with her subs on Sunday night, or Sunday evening, or whatever it was for us. And she brought up flat earth in that as well. And that's the one that you went and said Brian's Logic sent me. But then last night she brought up this topic again. But I'm doing my best to try and get her to notice my comments. Because what I want is to be able to explain to her that what she's calling science is only pseudoscience, and go through what real science is with her, and I'll even connect her to QE if I can, or even at least get the correct citations in that from QE that she could use on her channel, because that's the problem. She's given out about science, and she says, like, I don't trust the science, because it's pseudoscience she's not trusting. It's the rubbish that they're masquerading as science. But I also, of course, want to inform her correctly about this topic in general. I don't want to have her end up on her show talking about ether because she's been told it's valid. I don't want that. So that's kind of where I'm at with her.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to pick up on as well, which is when she did talk about science, it was pretty clear that she didn't have a good understanding of what science actually was when she decried it, which is a fairly typical trait when you first branch into this subject, especially with moon landing deniers that aren't flat earthers. That's a fairly standardish trait, wouldn't you agree? They suddenly think science has lied to me. It's like, no, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, of course. It's like I don't trust science anymore. When I was in that position in 2015, not because of flat Earth, it was because of stuff prior to that. Because I didn't know what it really was. Now that I know what it really is, I know the difference between what they're claiming to be science and what isn't. So now I never am let down by science because you can't be let down by it. It's simply a method of proving or disproving hypotheses. That's it. How can that leave you down? It can't.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, as much as I mentioned this in the pre-show, actually, before you got here, Brian, were you around when we were discussing Dave Weiss on Jesse's show?
Was that for the Ballbusters week before last?
I actually mean on this show. So there was a point after one of the shows, the Flat Earth debate shows, where Adam was primarily concerned with the people who are getting more traction in the subject not being flat earthers if they're true earthers. So off the back of that, he contacted Witsit and asked me to do the same with Jaron. Were you there while that was being discussed?
Yeah, I was part of that, yes.
Okay, well, I got a response from him. And the long and short of it is he gave a response that, to my satisfaction, is, yeah, he is a flat earther. There wouldn't be any ambiguity based on his answer, which he was quite forthcoming with and polite. Even asked me how my family was. I was like, okay. Nevertheless, based on that, there's two parts to this. The first part is, I actually hoped he would give an unsatisfactory answer, like Dave did to Jesse. I hoped for that, because I could then give up on him, right? Which is to say, like I did with Dave last week. Okay, what we've been moaning about with Dave Weiss is him not doing a good enough job of representing the arguments for a flat Earth. He does nothing but talk about the globe. Now we find out that what we have distanced ourselves from and saying, well, yeah, flat earthers do talk a lot of nonsense from the Feast of Nonsense, like Dave, but we're working on him and, he'll be a good ambassador. These arguments will reach him eventually, blah, 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 blah. When you find out he decries it, says it could be a big ball and declares himself a true earther, you can give up. You can go, well, he's not part of us anymore, then who cares? What he has to say about his subject is true earth and it doesn't affect us. So that's kind of what I hope from Jaron. Number one, because he's quite detrimental. He slags me off quite a lot, and it is detrimental. But number two, it means I could stop caring about that. The moment he gave an affirmation that was satisfactory to the statement that Adam was seeking, are you a flat earther or not, basically? And his answer was like, yeah, that definitely answers good enough for me to say, yeah, Jaron's definitely a flat earther, if anybody asked. It means I can't give up. So the response I had to give him was, okay, fine. Although in the past, I didn't say any of this, but what I'm thinking is, in the past, when I've attempted to do this with people on my own side, it's always ended to my detriment. But nevertheless, knowing that he is a flat earther, he is definitely a representative for this subject. I want him to have the best of possibility to overcome some of the arguments that he's faced with, regardless of if he's asking for these solutions or not. So based on his reply, I launched into explaining the affirming the consequent for the final experiment, in quotes, as in, if P then Q, Q therefore P. If we assume antipodal positioning, then we will observe 24-hour sun in Antarctica. We do observe 24-hour sun in Antarctica, therefore I prove my antipodal positioning on a globe. So I laid that out for him. Now, as I've just said, and I will repeat, when I've done this in the past, it has been massively to my detriment, which has resulted in me being cut loose from what I now know is still technically the flat earth community, being called a scammer, you name it. I don't want to go through the list, but lots of things to my detriment, when literally all I've done is reached out to somebody who's specifically on my own side and said, this is how you approach this argument. This is what they are doing. In this case, pointing out the affirming the consequent to Jaron. Now, He hasn't asked me to do that. He wasn't even on the discussion table when I contacted him about Dave and said, would you answer the same, or what would you answer? I can't remember how Adam asked me to phrase it specifically, but regardless, the point is he's now back in that position where, no, he is one of our ambassadors, and therefore he deserves, at the very least, for me to put my hand on my heart to my audience if this goes tits up in 6 months and it all turns very Netflix, for me to say, no, I did reach out to him, I did put the argument to him, I did explain the affirming the consequent fallacy. I have attempted in the past to explain science and why it's not an experiment. In this instance, I didn't. I actually directed him to a discussion about Dr. John Dee that's going to end up being an anecdote in my book as a video that I'd made for my publisher to be transcribed, etc., etc. But I sent that to Jaron. I'm like, don't share this, first of all. But it's just an anecdote of explaining to a PhD scientist.
You never learn.
Yeah, but I didn't labour that point. The point I laboured in my reply, which was pretty short, it was a couple of paragraphs at the most. It wasn't endlessly droning on about science. It was just, here's a link to my video, please don't share it. I don't know why I'm, putting my neck out again, because it's always been to my detriment. I can't remember how I phrased that bit. But then I just went, look, this is how the Antarctica thing breaks down, and just laid it out in the most simplistic terms I could, named the fallacy, and then broke down the sections of the fallacy and broke down the antipodal assumption so that it's clear as crystal. Then I can say, I've done my bit, right? As far as this Antarctica thing's going, I've done my bit. Yeah? And if it all goes wrong, I can say, look, I at least reached out to somebody who was involved, explain what the situation was. I couldn't do any more than that. I've done it in the past, and it's been massively to my detriment, so I really had to grit my teeth while I was doing it. But there we go. I feel a bit of a weight off my shoulders, actually. If you're listening to this, Jaron,
well,
thank you for replying.
Well, you have to be careful there, Nathan. There's two problems. Number one, Adam caused this problem. Right? I didn't want Adam contacting Widget privately, or you contacting Jaron privately. I was very specific that I wanted to publicly have them ask the question. Right? Do ye know for sure and without a doubt that the earth is flat? I wanted that to happen publicly. I didn't want the situation to happen privately where they don't have to address it publicly. I wanted it public because then they're in opposition to what David Boyce said. So how are they going to deal with that? But that didn't happen. They got an easy backdoor way out. As far as this is how I see it, an easy backdoor way out. And now you're being nice to Jaron. Nathan, it's only a matter of time before people start calling you a shit.
Yeah,
it's only a matter of time. Why do you do this to you?
Never learned, Brian. He never learned.
Well, I can answer you. I'll let you get to the end of your objection before I do explain it to you.
I'm done. That's it.
Well, because as I explained right at the beginning of the live show and in the pre-show, and I explained this to you literally 5 minutes ago, Brian. On one hand, it would be nice if Jaron gave an unsatisfactory response, and that would be to say something along the lines of, well, I know it's not a ball and nothing else. He didn't. I mean, he did. He said, I know it's not a ball and I know it's flat. Enough for me to satisfy the inquiry. Well, at which point, it's like, well, you're not a lost cause. You're not some guy in some other arena hijacking the terminology. As far as I'm concerned, you're still on our side. He's still a flat earther. Whether or not it's not on our side personally is a different story. He's still a flat earther. He's still prominent. Therefore, the juice is still worth the squeeze. Now, if you're saying to my detriment while squeezing, maybe not getting very much juice out, people will call me a shill. So be it. I don't care. People have called me a shill before, Brian. I don't care. I'll justify my actions like I'm justifying them to you now, but I'll only justify them to people I care about. That's my audience and you in this instance.
Well, Nathan, there's another problem. People might start calling you a fool.
Yeah,
that's even worse than
I disclaimed that to Jaron. I can't remember what I said. I'll have to go back and read what I said to him. But something like, my intentions to help the people who have besmirched my name boggles even me, which is my acknowledgement of exactly that, Brian. Am I just being a fool here? These are people that have called me scammers and definitely impacted my livelihood. Yeah, I'm reaching out to them and telling them where they're going wrong with their fallacies that they're adhering to when they go down to Antarctica, and still to this day trying to appeal to them to learn what science is. Now, you could and would be rightly justified in calling me a fool for doing that, Brian. I'm smiling while I say it, but yes. Shout out to Flat Earth Travolta for gifting the memberships. Really appreciate the support. And welcome to all of you who've just joined as a member.
Nathan,
I see it like sorry, just a quick one.
Go on,
Right? I just see it like it starts your passion, Nathan. I think for the subject. You know, you just put it all that aside, and it just shows your true passion for flat Earth. That's the way I see it.
Absolutely. I have to burn the flat I have to burn the YouTube hat when I'm doing these sorts of things. Because it's not once bitten, twice shy. It's you've been stung a million times. Keep away from the beehive. You know what I mean? Well, here's me poking my fingers in the beehive again, right? And I know that it's going to potentially be detrimental to my YouTube career. That these people might react and start calling me a scammer again or doing whatever it is that they've done in the past. Still worth it. It was worth it last time. I said this would happen last time. And at the end, when they probably did turn around and call me a scammer, I sighed and hung my head. But yeah, that's greater good, man. I can only see what potential it has to get someone like Jaren to understand the arguments we've been putting down, laying the foundations for 10 years. Now, either...
He's not going to...
Go on.
No, sorry, I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to give a scenario, so you go ahead.
He's not going to do any of that. You can thank Nottingham Nice. That's what I'm going to have to start calling Adam now. Because he wanted to take this route when I warned against it. And eventually I had to go along with it because there was no point in trying to stop it. This should have happened publicly. I don't care about personalities. That's the difference between me and you, maybe a little bit. Not that I have no care, but my main objective is to keep this space that we are calling Flat Earth, to keep that as free from fraud and nonsense as possible. It's a very difficult job, and you're not helping.
Right? Why am I not helping?
Because you're reaching out to people, and Adam's not helping with these nice guy tactics. You have to be able to go, no more nice. You have to be able to do that. And what's happening is you're reaching out to Jaren in the hope that he'll change. He won't. He has no interest in changing. He's not. He's going to turn around and knife everyone in the back again. He's going to do something. When has he ever brought that big, massive success? Never. With all these subs and all these years in it, he's never brought that big success. Not one time. It's always some kind of a disaster with him and those that hang in with him. There's always some disaster. I accepted that years ago. You're hoping to pull him from the ashes of the disasters he's created. Why? I just can't do that. I'm just like, no, you are not on my side. I do not trust you, and I do not want you in the arena I'm in. We're not on the same page. You have a completely different agenda than me. I don't know what other way to say it. Now, you were friends with him from before. He was never my friend. I was never friends with him. So I understand that. But the topic is we're in a situation where we're trying to show the whole world that they've been wrong about the biggest thing they're aware of. And we have to keep personalities out of it. Otherwise, we're never going to get there.
Yeah, okay.
That would be I'm not going to look. What can I say? What can I say? I understand why you did what you did. So.
Shout out to Mike.
I still don't.
He says, appreciate you. This says a lot about your character. Oh, thank you very much, Mike.
He's going to say the opposite about mine then.
Yeah, well, I get it from both ends, Brian. Some people say I'm too aggressive. Some people say I'm not aggressive enough. Some people say I'm too tolerant of the people around us. Some people say I'm not tolerant enough. You can never please everybody all the time.
No, you can't please everyone all the time. But what's important is consistency. consistent, but in the right way, not consistency in the right way. See, you know what it is? You go from being maybe too nice to being not nice at all. You just switch completely to the opposite way, where you're just like, you go from being a flower to a razor blade, if you know what I mean. Whereas I'm kind of trying to be more of a razor blade, not a razor blade, but not a flower as much as possible. You know, it's like I'm trying to keep all emotional ties out of it. I don't like. I'm friends with you, right? I'll always be friends with you. I can't see why we would never be friends. But that doesn't mean if you're doing something that I don't agree with, that I'm not going to say it to you. I will absolutely say it.
That's what friends do.
And I'd expect the same from you.
Well, no, again, we discussed this in the pre-show. Friends will do that, regardless of if you're happy with somebody. I've said this about good customers. Good customers will tell you when they're not happy. Yeah? Now, there comes a point where people just say, I don't want to buy this product anymore. I am not buying what you are selling. Now they are not going to tell you what they don't like about your product. They're just not going to buy it. And it's the same with friendships. It reaches a point where you go, I don't want to know this person anymore. They're no good for me. You know, that's it. Then you're not interested in telling them what you don't like about them. Now, that sounds weird, but it's easier to understand the other way around, right? People love to hate on this show, don't they? Listen to how I said that again. They love to hate on the show. Now, there are various shows out there, potentially ones that are detrimental to this show, saying we're bad, that I have absolutely no interest in whatsoever. So it's not like I'm going to be saying they're bad. It's not like I'm going to be saying they're good. I'm just not going to be saying anything about them because I don't care. And that is far more detrimental to that particular person. Because there's thousands of channels out there that people don't care about. Yeah? The ones that have got people loving to hate them, and obviously the contra-positive people liking them as well. You can't just have everyone hates you, because that wouldn't be successful. My point being, that's still engagement, interaction, part of your success. When people turn their back on you, that's when it all falls apart. Now let's contrast that into the subject matter. NASA. The last thing NASA need is for everyone to turn their backs on them. Not care what they have to say about the sky. That's the worst possible outcome. Somewhere in the middle is everyone saying they're wrong and half the people saying they're right. That's perfect, in fact. Yeah? So that's what we've got. People talking about how NASA's wrong, why you haven't got this set of keys falling to the ground in 0G if it was in it, why people are fading out in edits, why blue screens are being used. You're still talking about NASA and the sky, and you're still basically appealing to them. Once you know that these people are liars, just cut them out of your life. You don't need to know what they've got to say anymore. It's all lies. You figured that out, right? So why do you need to engage with them? I know, I think it'd be much better if we sit here with our pitchforks and our torches and start telling everybody else not to look at NASA. Is that not just bringing attention to them also? Just turn your back on them.
We don't have pitchforks and torches. We have powerful words.
101 people watching or listening to you say that, Neil. Thank you very much to all of you who smashed the share button. The only reason we've got 101 people watching. Very warm welcome to anybody who's just joined us. Please share the show if you've not done so already. We do have actually a video to cover today, unless there's any more gossip, hopefully on subject.
I agree with what you say about NASA. It's like, I've completely forgot about NASA years ago. Now, they seem to turn up now and again on people's videos. Even like most like I suppose most of his videos don't have NASA stuff in it, but sometimes it does. They just keep turning up, and on TikTok, my God, TikTok. Not that I watch it, but I know because I've seen them being shared. The TikTok, they just can't stop talking about NASA, asking NASA stupid things. If you can show me a picture of this, I'll go back to believing it's a globe. All this stupid stuff, you know what I mean? Show me the sun and the moon and the this and the that, and then it might be a globe. It's like, why are you talking? Like, just drop them out of your life. Ignore them. Then they become irrelevant. As long as you're referencing them, they're relevant, isn't it? It's like with the anti-flat earthers. Why did I and Mitchell at the same time and QE and other people decide we're not debating you anymore unless you pay us? Why did they do that? Because the only thing giving them relevance was us. And there were still loads of flat earthers out there giving them relevance when they're not. You're debating. Who are you debating? These people aren't the claimed heliocentric experts, are they? Hey, Chocolate.
Yo, what up, guys?
Guy.
But you know what I mean? These people aren't the heliocentric experts. These are just anti-flat earthers. And the more so it's the same thing. If you keep giving them attention, you're keeping them relevant. Now NASA are the exact same thing. You're keeping NASA relevant. They're a load of rubbish. They're a load of lawyers. That's all you need to know. That's just goodbye, like.
People don't have to deal with that, though. People literally don't have to. I was thinking of a comparison. I couldn't think of one quick enough before you ended your statement. But the only thing that popped to mind is the guy that keeps going back to the cheating wife, or vice versa, the girl that keeps going back to the cheating husband. Like, what are you going to do? Ask them if they've not been cheating and have them lie to you some more? Or when you suspect something's wrong, appeal to them for whether or not it's wrong to get a whole bunch of more lies. And when you expose them on their lies, they tell you that you have misinterpreted the information. Or they don't answer you at all and they get a load of your mates they've poisoned to come and tell you that you were wrong to even suspect such a thing. That's what NASA have got. A whole bunch of general public out on YouTube defending their honour on their behalf. Well, they don't ever defend their own honour. They just keep spewing out the same garbage without ever defending it. It's like, yeah, okay, if you want to be in that scenario, you've got no balls. Basically, once you figure out your wife cheated on you, you turn your back on her, divorce her, and you move on with your life, knowing that she's a cheating scumbag or he's a cheating scumbag. That's it. Now, do you keep going back to the same cheating scumbag wife or husband and appealing to them for why they did it? No! No, not unless you're nuts. Not unless you're a glutton for punishment. You figured out that they're a scumbag liar and they were deceiving you the whole time. Yeah, do you want to be around that kind of person? Do you like scumbag liar deceivers? You do? Yeah, clearly, because you keep asking NASA why they've lied to you or asking them for new answers to convince you of the thing that they were originally convincing you of. And they don't care about you. They couldn't give a toss. You seem to think that they do, though, don't you? That's why you're asking. Sad. Very sad. Any more for any more? Had Candace
Lawyers stay relevant. Lawyers stay relevant as long as there's people around for them to lie to. That's the side of it. Lawyers become irrelevant when there's no one around for them to lie to. When everyone decides they're done listening to them. And that's what NASA are, they're the lawyers. So why do so many flat earth people out there keep on referring to them? Who cares about whether there is a glitch in the film or there's this or that? Go on, Chocolate.
Yeah, I'll just say Stockholm syndrome.
Well, we started this conversation with Candace Williams, aka Candace Owens. Nevertheless, being praised for her immediate recognition of the moon landing being fake as a normie out in the YouTube masses with a couple of million subscribers, right? Well, it depends where you're at, doesn't it? If you are just in normie society and you recognise the moon landings are fake, you'll probably get a high five off a flat earther, including us, right? But once you're into the thick of it, which Candace Owens is not, then you're like, why are you still talking about this? It's like, if we were talking to her now, and all she could talk about is NASA, it's like, I get that you want to get your point across to a commenter who's talking about flat Earth to you by using that as an example, but it seems like you're fascinated with it more so than potentially were you a NASA fanboy before this? Because you can't seem to shut up about it now. Like, you know they're liars. That's it. That's it. That's the end of your involvement with them, isn't it? And if it isn't, why isn't it?
You know, I think you hit on a good point there, Nathan. I think actually it's something I actually didn't think of. You know what? Maybe there is a lot of flat earthers out there who were secretly very drawn in by NASA. I wasn't. I lost all faith in NASA years before 2015 when it became a flat earther. Like, NASA to me were a complete joke.
One deck. One deck. Can you mute? Try again, Brian. See if we can get one deck's attention.
Yeah, I just speak anyway. It doesn't come true. I can't hear it that much anyway. But yeah, before 2015, way before 2015, NASA were a joke to me. I remember them being a joke back in 2007, 2008, and beforehand. I was just thought they were a complete and utter joke. Like, I didn't at the time want a flat earther, but anything they were putting out was a complete joke. I didn't go along with the moon landing thing, any of their nonsense. Anytime I see a NASA video, I just didn't take it serious. But there seems to have been a lot. I'm sure from what you're saying, it's a good point, Nathan. Maybe there is a lot of flat earthers who did actually were big fanboys, and when they found out it was all rubbish, maybe they just want to attack NASA in some way because they feel so hard done by. If you know what I mean. It's
yeah,
like
they feel robbed of of an extensive fantasy. Once you find out NASA's fake, quite an extensive part of your worldview goes down the toilet, and it's space, sky vacuums, traveling to distant planets, aliens. There's a whole bunch of stuff that just immediately evaporates.
Yeah, it's a good point, though. I never thought of that. You know, maybe because maybe they were fanboys, and maybe that's why they have such an issue with them. You know, I have no. I mean, I have an issue with them.
Imagination,
Come on.
You're messing with people's imagination, right? Like I've had people tell me that, like, why are you messing with my fantasies of space and the stars, and maybe one day we'll go out into the stars and explore. And I just looked at him like, bro, we're living on supposedly a planet with oceans that you guys haven't even examined 5% of, if you want to believe that number. But you want to go to some planet out in a vacuum that's raining diamonds just cause it's a cute light in the sky. Like, people don't like their imaginations being played with, especially when it's reality that breaks that down.
Yeah, there's a word for it. There's an actual theatrical term for what you are describing, and it was coined by one of the directors, believe it or not, of Star Trek: The Next Generation, a guy called Steven Berkoff, who also performed in it. He was one of the actors. Nevertheless, he wrote a whole book on this principle called alienation, and the idea that if you are in a state of suspending disbelief and something comes along to take you out of that suspension of disbelief, the feeling is incredibly jarring. So, as an example, if you're watching a theatre production where you've got Peter Pan and he swings into stage on a trapeze, and then one of the trapeze wires breaks, sending the actor to the ground, and you're suddenly not, he's not eternally young and he's bleeding and he's being carted off on it. That doesn't help the performance, does it, of Peter Pan? You following? You need the suspension of disbelief to remain intact for the entirety of the performance for you to extract enjoyment from it. And anything that removes that will alienate you from the performance. That is to say, remove the suspension of disbelief. And that is what we're dealing with when we are dealing with the masses of the Western world. They are in a state of suspending disbelief about their reality being globe-shaped and space-based. Well, that, if you try and snap them out of it, is like Peter Pan's high wire snapping. It's jarring. People don't like it. They want to retain that suspension of disbelief. And some people not only want to retain it, have a lot invested in that suspension of disbelief and will fight you tooth and nail if you try and remove that from them. So the reaction to alienation, as it is coined by Steven Berkoff, is what you are describing. Shout out to the Flat Out Truth. Hold on, just one sec. They hate this world and look for another in Narnia. Yeah, they do. They hate the beauty and the natural physical makeup of what we actually experience and want to fantasize about something they cannot experience in physical reality. They want it. They want the Narnia that they can't go to through the wardrobe, but other men do. We're contrasting art with space for anybody who doesn't get the comparison. Go ahead, Chocolate. My bad.
No, I was just gonna say it kind of sounds like a syndrome that would lead to somebody to, I don't know, call themselves, I don't know, fight the flat Earth as if there's something to fight, like reality.
In the not too distant future, he's going to
Yeah.
be finding out that he's actually been consuming his own tail, given that the globe is based on flat Earth measurements. If you fight the flat Earth, you're fighting the base principles that you measure to give yourself a globe to believe in.
That's a good one.
Yep.
All roads lead to a
Quit
flat
hitting
Earth, Neil.
yourself. It's like Fight Club when the guy's punching himself in the face. That's what Globers are doing every time they're fighting the flat Earth, quote unquote. Fight the tight shirt is actually his name. But yeah, that's what they're doing, punching themselves in the face.
Yeah.
Well, now they're shooting themselves in the face with the silver bullet because they keep telling us how flat it is.
Make their claim, they've got to tell us how flat it is, and to decry the Earth being flat, they must relinquish major aspects that are required to make their globe claim in order to do so.
No, all of the globe goes as the flat Earth goes.
But yeah, that's what I mean by major aspects. Major aspects being the fundamental basis. Exactly.
Just
like,
before
like somebody talking to you about a localized plane and then asking you how that works on a flat Earth.
Yeah, exactly. Go on, Brian, then I'll shout out the So Far Super Chat. Go ahead.
I just want to say that just on the NASA thing before we go too far away from it, and there's people lining up, right, to volunteer to go to Mars in a spaceship being built by Elon Musk, lining up to go and colonize Mars. How stupid would you have to be to think that that's possible?
Well, you have to believe that soil in the sky, instead of traversing the ground across the oceans towards the horizon, as has been done when we discovered the new worlds, people have to now believe that the soil discoverable is in the sky. That's what they have to believe.
Yeah, there's a guy commented, Sean something is the guy's name, and he commented on my channel. I was just commenting to someone else, but I saw it, and I just had to reply to him. And it was, he read out now, in fairness to the guy, he wrote out 3 comments and put in as much detail as possible in how they measured the distance to the sun, right? And I put a 4-point comment in. Step 1, pre-assume you're on an unmeasured globe of radius 3959 miles. Step 2, pre-assume that Venus is also a sphere of equal radius or similar radius. Step 3, use Venus's angular size to determine the distance to Venus. Step 4, use the angular size difference between Venus and the Sun during the transit of Venus's transit of the Sun to determine the distance between the globe Earth and the Sun. Load of rubbish. And he tried to tell me it has nothing to do with a globe or Venus or, do you know what I mean? He just couldn't. You don't have an R value, so that's it. Do you know what I mean? There's no geometry for your claim. So that's all your claims start with that. How can you deny that? How can you deny that has nothing to do with 3959? How can you even start with that? You know what I mean? He wrote out, I swear to God, it was the amount of detail he put into this. And why is there so much detail that he can put into this comment? Him and other people like him. Because the simplicity of what they did, right, is what I said. They afterwards add as much nonsense to that as possible to give the impression that there's some kind of validity to it. Because bowlers have it in their head, if it's all complex and complicated, that must mean that it's real. Nobody's going to have all that complicated stuff and all this complicated maths and all that. No one's going to have all that and it not be real. Why not? They just can't understand that it's so simple.
They've got to decry your points, because their claim starts with your points and then tries to convolute the fact that the measurements are flat in the complicated process they're lending the validity to. Doesn't alter, like I said with Fight the Flat Earth earlier. If you decry that Earth is flat, then you have no measurements to base your globe on. Shout out to us so far on the topic previous. He says, I think it's because NASA takes $22 billion a year from our tax dollars that people have a problem and will keep trying to expose them, hence the nonsense. Thank you for the super chat.
Can I ask a fast question?
A fast question? Very fast.
Is fast, very fast. Is mathematical physics real?
Mathematical
Like, what is
physics?
that?
What? What do you mean mathematical physics? Physics is the study of the physical and natural world. Mathematics is an abstract description.
So how could somebody have a PhD in mathematical physics?
I don't know. There's a lot of wankery going on when it comes to claiming you've got things that prove other things. That's science.
Just to let you know, but Joe Rogan's got another video.
Are you talking about Eric Weinstein?
Yes, he's on with Joe Rogan and the actor.
Terrence Howard. Yeah, I saw that.
Is this
Yeah, you know what's funny? I thought about that yesterday when I was watching it, right? And I don't blame him for that because it's a category that obviously it's wrong, right? But it's a category that they've invented, they created, right? So if the guy thinks that he's got a PhD in that, like I don't want to attack him for that. If that's what he feels like he studied all his life, you know. So I don't know. I'm back and forth with it, but that point is something I did think of yesterday when because he introduced himself as a mathematical physician, and yeah, I thought the same thing. Like, what the hell? But then I thought about it and said, it's one of those things, right? I don't blame him for it, you know, because he's obviously, because listening to him, obviously he knows the difference between mathematics and, you know, physicality. So I don't know. I don't fault him for it. I'm done.
Yeah, the question is, if a guy like QE addressed him, would it be humble enough to realize that it's an oxymoron?
What was he covering? What was he actually talking about, though, regardless of his title that he ascribed?
That whole thing with Terrence Howard.
Just one of you, chocolate
It
or
was, yeah, it was a response to the Terrence Howard episode on Joe Rogan, where Terrence Howard was talking all that stuff about the flower life, gravity, and all this other stuff that he's into right now.
He's
so
responding to that.
I guess Eric, yeah, because Eric Weinstein, like I said, he's a mathematical physician. So Joe Rogan's pretty cool with him. So he kind of just wanted to respond to him and actually give him some feedback as opposed to just attack him the way that Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of did, which is what they got into, which is kind of funny because being that they got into this whole thing about peer review. Sorry, I got a forklift in the back. They got into this whole thing about peer review because that's basically what Neil deGrasse Tyson went and told Terrence Howard, that, you know, just that'll be that. And Eric Weinstein, even though he's in that mainstream category, he's kind of off the fray of it. And he says that obviously somebody like Terrence or any normal person who has new ideas is not going to be able to submit to peer review because it's like a closed section in academics. You know what I mean? Like, they won't look at you if you're outside. Like, he even put it like, if your email doesn't say .edu at the end, then they're not even paying attention to you. You know what I mean? So that was kind of the basic. I mean, it was a 4-hour episode. It's kind of crazy. So anyway, I'm done with it.
Okay, we've got a video to cover, so we'll be definitely on for a bit more than an hour today just to cover this, although it is a short video. This was recommended by, I can't remember who to credit them, but somebody sent me a super chat yesterday in the Uncut After show on the second channel. So thank you for recommending this, whoever it was. I'll shout you out properly in a minute when I look you up. But we'll get into this now. I haven't sound checked it, so I'll do that now.
Keep on going about the curved adjacents in the context of the sextant. So I decided to make this video showing how measuring the elevation angle with a sextant really works. Say we have an observer on a boat somewhere on the ocean. This red dot will represent the observer. Say he's looking at some star and
If it's on the ocean, what it'd have on the ocean would be a reference to sea level. Am I wrong? Diagram doesn't have a level ocean. Doesn't have a sea level, does it? Shout out to Flat Out Truth. We can show them there is only one Earth, so they cannot deal with it. Showing them reality triggers them because a closet is just being a closet. Don't get it. Oh, like Narnia. Is that what he means? Wardrobe. Thank you for the super chat, Flat Out Truth.
and wants to measure its elevation angle. So this is his line of sight to the star. It might surprise you that I didn't draw it as a straight line. There is a reason for that. The line of sight
is straight in Earth curve mathematics and is going to be forming an angle. The line of sight is not straight, it won't give you an angle. What's he talking about? Why are we starting with nonsense, right? The starting point for making this process work is measuring an elevation angle. That's the starting point. Why is he drawing out diagrams with curved the Earth that's not sea level and bent lines of sight? What's going on? Has anybody got a slightest idea where this is going?
He's a baller, obviously.
Yeah, anti-flat earther.
And who is he?
Some
what's
little
his name?
YouTuber, some anti-flat earther.
All right, so I can't see it, but what's going on here is he's trying to make a process that requires a flat plane of reference for every part of it. He's trying to make that be a sidebar to a globe. And what he's going to try and do is put the angle at the center of his globe after he's taken it from a tangent. I don't know what the bent lines of sight is. That means he doesn't understand his own paradigm, because there's no bent lines of sight in the globe paradigm. They don't know. That's because these people don't understand what's actually being claimed in their own paradigm.
He understands enough, though. He understands enough to know that he should be drawing straight line as opposed to curved line. So he even explained, like, I know it's going to be weird that I'm not drawing a straight line, but I'll show you why.
Is curved because of refraction. Refraction in the atmosphere bends the light down slightly, so...
No, it doesn't.
Go
ahead, Brian.
So even within their paradigm, that doesn't happen. What happens is, this is the problem. They're claiming 7 over 6 or sorry, over 6 or greater than 7 over 6 or for let's say the likes of the Black Swan. But that means they don't understand. What they're trying to claim is that the horizon has been lifted up and stretched out further from you. Right? That's what they're trying to claim. That's what they're trying to claim is refracted, is that the surface of the globe Earth is lifted up and unbended and puts your horizon further away, right? But that requires a straight line. As those maths for that, which is I've shown myself, that requires a straight line of sight. They don't understand their own paradigm. This guy doesn't know what it is he's fighting for. When I brought out the videos concerning what their over 6 hour claims are, with the maths from Adam, maths that were okayed by the likes of Ruhif, who Ruhif couldn't argue with him. When I brought them out, there's no end of ballers trying to say I'm strawmanning them and don't know what I'm talking about, because they don't understand their own paradigm. So they often think we're strawmanning them when we're just presenting the actual paradigm that they're supporting.
Well,
but they just don't understand it.
The clue is in the title. Their refraction that this guy's appealing to and then depictorially representing as a bent line of sight to the stars in their globe Earth maths is a calculation of 7 over 6 of the radius. It's derived from the radius. It's got nothing to do with light at all. And everything to do with the radius is right there in terrestrial refraction. But he's going to describe how your bent line of sight to the stars works. No, mate, you're taking an angle. First step in celestial navigation is measure an angle. This is nonsense.
Yeah,
So
but
the rays of light are eyes or
Say again?
If he's saying there's a bent line of sight to the stars, what they're trying to do there, and I've come across this many, many times in the past 3-4 years with the borders, since celestial navigation came in. What's termed as celestial refraction, which is not really refraction at all, but what they call celestial refraction is that you're seeing the star higher than it really is, right? So you bring it down a bit, right? Mathematically, right? This is their claim. They're trying to call that 7/6 or greater than 7/6. The ballers try and hijack that thing, even though that thing is kind of made up.
Hold on a sec. One deck. You're ruining my show. Go on mute. One deck. One deck. One deck. I have to serve and mute him. I've got no choice.
But yeah, the ballers think that is 7/. They think that that's somehow their 7/, and greater than 7/6 all being added in. They think that's some kind of globe proof, when that has nothing to do with 7 or greater than 7/6 all. Nothing to do with it whatsoever. That's up in the sky. That's not on the surface of Earth. They don't know their own paradigm. Go on.
The receiving are really curved. The other thing the observer sees is the horizon. This one is also curved due to refraction, which is why the horizon the observer sees, called the apparent horizon, is slightly higher and slightly further than the purely geometrical calculations would indicate. But this isn't really important here.
Well, no, because you're not doing any of that. You're measuring an angle. It's like nobody's concerning themselves with where geometric derivations of flat surfaces with parallel eye lines put Earth curve below surface level. You're measuring a surface level with the horizon. It says on his line of sight to the horizon. It's got a bent line to it. What the hell? No, mate, you just establish your tool as level and then take an angle to the star with two straight lines. It's forming an angle in a sextant. This guy's got two bent lines coming out of the boat. The guy's fundamentally idiotic. There's no other words to describe it.
Yeah. Doctor, you want to say something? Well, if Doctor doesn't say something, I do want to say something. It's like he said...
Go ahead.
Thank you. He said, well, that's not important right now. Well, it's not important that you're trying to add an R value in that doesn't exist in measured reality. I think that's extremely important myself, that you're trying to get that one over on me. I would find that extremely important.
It doesn't matter that both of these bent lines will be derived from the R value, even though that's not how the maths actually works, and even though we haven't actually acquired an angle yet from this boat. I'm going to tell you that the reason the lines are bent is based on R, as we've explained, and he hasn't, but it's not important according to him. What, not important why these bent lines aren't forming angles anymore? Because it's the only justification for it, and it won't give you the angle that you measure from the boat. So this is an absolute cluster screw.
Yeah, and he's debunked with his claimed refracted horizon. Because how does that work? You're not making any adjustments for the horizon when you're doing celestial navigation. There's no adjustments for lifting or dropping of the horizon. When you get your angle between that visible sea horizon and Polaris, with the angle you get after your dip correction and your celestial refraction correction, that is your latitude. There's no correction for the horizon. So if the horizon is some constantly refracted position, refracted up off of a globe Earth, how can it give you your correct latitude? It's useless.
This guy's just making it up. This is total nonsense. This is how angles work on a globe, is what he's basically explaining. How measuring elevation angles works on a globe. Well, here we are, minute and 6 into the video. This is how they work. They don't. This is not a bleeding angle. Game over. There's nothing else to this. You don't get angles from a globe. It's just that simple. This is total nonsense. Right, you're going to have to let this guy know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. He's only a small YouTuber, so I'm sure he'll be grateful of the views. But, you know, I'd normally say in the politest possible way, you know, don't trigger the algorithm to get your comment deleted. But feel free to tell this guy's an idiot. This is supposed to be an angle. That's all you do. You measure an angle with the sextant from the boat. Do any mariners describe how they're dropping globe Earth horizons and taking donkey dick angles that won't have vertices with two straight lines? No, they're not. This is utterly idiotic.
Does he? Because I can't see it. Does he even have a tangent?
No, he's not. He's just making this stuff up. The whole thing's made up. It's just a nonsense. It doesn't comport with globe Earth derivations taken from flat Earth either. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thing is as well, guys. Even, I mean, sorry, I've just jumped back in a little bit, but even when you're doing that sighting of the set, there's a reduction for refraction within the procedure. You know what I mean? We already account for that in the procedure.
If you're within 20 degrees of the horizon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but you're still using the horizon for the principle of calibrating your tool. This guy's accounting for a globe Earth horizon that makes his line that's going to be forming an angle bent. This is so stupid.
Curved rays of light. We take a sextant and we attempt to measure the angle between them. Can that work? Well, sure it can.
No. You can't get an angle from two bent lines, you complete clown. Man, is this really what anti-flat earthers tell themselves to square the circle? Can we get a angle from two bent lines? Of course. No. Fundamentally, no. What clown?
That's because the sextant doesn't care whether the rays are curved or not.
Sorry, it's an angle measuring device. It measures angles.
Did he say whether the horizon curves or not?
He says the sextant doesn't care if the rays of light are bent or not. It's like it's measuring an angle between 2 points: the horizon baseline and the star or light in the sky. Those are the 2 points, and there's straight lines between them for it to be called an angle, and it's an angle measuring device. Are you going to ask me whether or not this piece of equipment is sentient and has feelings about caring about what the light rays do? That's a bit non sequitur when it's an angle measuring device and just measures straight lines, not bent ones.
They can't have bent light rays,
isn't it? No, but that's the switcheroo. Say that you're going to now argue about can you have bent light rays or not. Distracted, he's won. Because now you're discussing whether bent light rays, not whether or not an angle can have a bent line as one of its vertices. It's the only thing that's relevant.
Yep.
Light, its behaviour has nothing to do with this. It's also got nothing to do with how a sextant works. But to bend the light means you ignore and mitigate for the bent straight line that you can't have.
Yeah, exactly, Adam. All that matters is you're measuring an angle. Step 1 of celestial navigation is going to be measuring an elevation angle. This isn't an elevation angle. It hasn't got a straight baseline. It won't have 90. Let's say this is the star. Is this going to form 90 down here? It's just totally stupid.
It is worth noting. Oh.
No, go ahead. Whoever that was.
I was just going to say, it is worth noting, if you scroll down a little bit, there's 147 comments, and there's a ton of views on a tiny video. It's just a testament to how good the argument is and how many people are looking for ways to get out of it.
Getting out of what? Well, measuring angles? Yeah, that's what
like
it boils down
measuring
to.
angles.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Like, they're hurting.
Is this something you'd stick your tick next to, ballers? Oh, yeah, I totally agree. Really? Okay. So what, not the parallel planes moving up to the sky with the diagrams we get from the navigation manuals that transpose those only acquirable from tangent planes that assumes Earth is flat with GPs not meeting that tangent plane transposed into hell, as it's actually done if you convert the flat Earth acquired angles that are straight, which this guy is definitely not describing, into the centre of the globe Earth on the equatorial plane. That's how it would work if you're actually going to describe it as a glober. This guy just hasn't got a clue and has literally boshed out a video saying curve angles are possible. That's his explanation to square the circle in his mind. Not researching how the globe actually tries to explain this requirement for flat Earth elevation angles. It gives you tangent planes and dingleberry Earths and globe burgers after transposition with parallel planes to parallel sight lines at all altitudes. That's what you actually do. He just doesn't know what he's doing. Why do people put videos out if they literally haven't done any research?
Well, without those parallel light rays, There is no globe mathematically. What I mean is that that is where Eratosthenes, that's the whole point of Eratosthenes, to try and bring in some kind of parallel light ray nonsense to avoid the fact that to measure a distance between Cyan and Alexandria, they had to measure it horizontally. So they had to bring in parallel light rays, make the sun really big and far away. And if he's
this is different.
Sorry?
That's a different invocation they've done there. I agree. The parallel light rays, that's not what he's invoking there. He's invoking bendy light. He's invoking the 7/6R travel of light. Yeah,
but that's not non-parallel. Yeah, but that's not 7/6R. 7/6R is only the surface of Earth.
No. When they
it's not bending of the line of sight.
No, because they can't do that.
They keep... Right, you two can debate this in the after show. Right, we'll get into whether or not it's extending the light rate or extending Earth in the after show. We'll debate this after.
They didn't answer your question anyway.
What question?
Still not my point. What
question?
They didn't answer your question anyway.
What question?
What motivates people to make videos like this? Well, it's a sycophant slurry of delusional Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
A little bit of pride and atheism. That's what it is. That's why.
I'd focus on the Dunning-Kruger bit because in his mind, he's done really well on the exam, right?
It failed third grade geometry.
They still come into the sextant from some directions, and these directions can be represented by tangents to the light rays. So to the sextant, it seems that the star is...
Can I interrupt now with the point that you didn't think was important, but really is?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right, so this is where he's trying to mug you off, yeah? This misconception. This is the point where he's now going to have to do what me and Brian was arguing, which is he bending, which is he not? Remembering that the bending is to accommodate things because we see too far. This is what he's going to have to do to bend the light for us to be able to see. But this is where you make the distinction between that and parallel light, which is required for a separate function. Remember that this non-behavior of light that they're citing is just to make sure that you can have a 7/6 or greater expanding the ball. But in actual fact, the reason you expand the ball mathematically is because it's very difficult to actually do what they're claiming doing, which is that light bends.
What's the R in 7/6R?
That'll be an imaginary conceptualized reference point, which is based on a flat Earth elevation angle to Polaris. Once you take that and ascribe it as a straight line distance, you can then transform that straight line distance into a presupposed R value for a pre-assumed spherical spinning monkey ball.
That's what I'm looking for. R. What's that stand for?
Radius. Spherical.
Radius. I bet you most ballers thinks it's refraction.
Probably.
This direction.
Which one are they actually looking for? Are they looking for R or are they looking for bizarro R? If there are, they seem to like to put in equations and change it to another R.
Right.
So which R is it?
At this point in the process, right, I'll say it again. I've said it 3 times. I'll say it a 4th. All we're doing at this stage, if you're actually out on a boat on the sea, is measuring an angle. A very specific type of angle called an elevation angle. It's off the surface and to the thing in the sky that you're measuring. That's it. That's all you've got to do to this point. Everything that this guy goes through from this point forth, number one, won't make sense because you haven't got an angle that's being measured. You've got curved lines, according to him, which aren't an angle. And is surplus to requirements. All you've got to do is get that angle. But he's going to make all sorts of apologetics and surplus to requirement claims for, well, he's already done it with what? Horizons dropping away from you. It's used to calibrate the tooler's level. You don't concern yourself with how much the globe Earth horizon falls away in the Earth curve maths and derivations of an R value for terrestrial refraction. None of that's done. You just measure an angle. That's it.
Which is tangent to the line of sight. And
tangent to the line of sight. Line of sight being what? Straight? Because according to you earlier, this was your line of sight.
The horizon seems to be in...
Exactly. It makes absolutely no sense.
This direction, which is tangent to the line of sight as well.
Oh, is it?
Twice!
What?
he doesn't. He doesn't know what a tangent is.
And
obviously.
so the angle between these two tangents.
He's got a tangent to his bent line of sight to the star and a tangent to the 7/6 increased radial value. That's what he's drawing tangents to. Who's making that noise? Shiz Lizzie or whatever you're called. Hello.
Very nice.
What's your name?
It says Schlitz.
Do you have something to add?
Or Schlitzy.
Did you have something to add, Schlitzy?
No.
You pop yourself on mute then. Thank you.
Is what the sextant will show us. And I'm stressing again, it doesn't matter what happens to the light along the way. It could do some loops for all the sextant cares.
Okay.
We're back to sentient sextants. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Sextant's clear now. I see.
Yeah, this looks like the kind of diagram we see all the time, doesn't it? This looks very much like what you'd expect to see when measuring angles and drawing circles of equal elevation. You'd expect tangents to bent lines that you're not measuring. Okay, fair enough.
It only shows the angle between the directions.
Sorry?
Did you know, Nathan, that the sextant doesn't care at all about your gas bill or your friend's divorce? It just doesn't care.
How do you know? Have you spoken to my sextant?
You know, it's upsetting. If you don't send it a Christmas card, then you're going to get some emotion out of it. But if you're just telling it that light's bending, he don't care. I'm looking at the
sextant from the hood.
What would be the point of a sextant if the light source that you're assuming is actually a curved line? If it was a curved line and you're just going to take the angle from where you are, it wouldn't tell you where you are, therefore the angle would be of no use. The diagram he's got on screen shows it. If you look at the point of intersection as he goes through his star, yeah, so where it intersects the blue line, you can see the angle that would generate, except, of course, that's not where the star is. So if you actually go to the top of the yellow line, you'll see that if you were to draw a straight line from the boat to the top of the yellow line, it wouldn't be at the point of intersection where the blue and yellow lines be, i.e. the indices of those two curved lines. Hence, you don't get the correct angle, which is the purpose of a sextant. So him not caring is really him doing a hand wave dismissal at him fundamentally denying the principles of angles and how sextants work.
But it's got an Ashton that says this is the angle measured with a sextant. And then it shows a line between 2 points that aren't on the ground and aren't to the star, he says you're seeing. I see, Adam. So this is flawed and denies the very principle of a sextant in favour of telling you how it feels or cares about. I see.
The light is coming, which is the angle between the tangents. Okay, but that...
Does that have a citation with it? Angle between tangents?
Oh, you can't. He's just made the definitive statement that he doesn't care what the light's doing. But he should, because if he knows that the light's doing cartwheels and spinny loop-the-loops, he'd also realise that at this point he can no longer ascertain a tangent, because he was going to use principles of optics, i.e. light travels in a straight line, as his calibrating device to make his horizon. But he's now just said he can't actually set a tangent up because light bends.
That's not quite what we want for navigation. For navigation, we care about this.
An elevation angle measurement to a star that you've got in your almanac. That's what you care about.
Did he put in the third line? Did he put in the opposite?
Yes.
Or did he just have...
No.
So here's an op...
No.
Yeah. They're pathetic, right? It's a vertical angular measurement, and they won't put in the vertical line. I mean, it's like...
Well, it won't meet the ground position, will it? It won't meet anything to do with the ground, and if it is meeting the ground, it's only going to be meeting the ground either on a curved ground or a curved line he says the light is travelling on, ergo not a ground position. The only angle he's actually inferring as a measurement is out in space and isn't actually a tangent to a dingleberry because it's not horizontal. He's got it angled down. There's so much wrong in this, in both his assertion that could be reinterpreted by us correctly as a globe claim. He just doesn't know what he's talking about, though. Everything about it's wrong.
But this is what they all say, Nathan. Like, I mean, basically all of them say exactly what this guy is saying. They're all on that same page. They're all collectively ignorant. And they don't listen to no one. Like, I've pointed out to them that for their claim, for what we talk about, which is just reality, in celestial navigation in reality, for every angle you're taking, there's one, you're creating, let's say, you're creating two right-angled triangles, one on top of the other, right, when you're using the co-altitude. But for the basic elevation angle, you're creating a right-angled triangle, right? They're denying that, right? But they don't realize that within their paradigm, how they mathematically show it and do it, they create one on a tangent, and then they bring that down to the center of the sphere. They extend out their equatorial plane into the celestial plane, and they create another. I'll show you in a while.
Well,
maybe
he might get to that.
But
Maybe he'll transpose this. Maybe he'll transpose this into hell. We'll see.
The true direction to the star. That's...
Hold on. So we've now got 3 lines. Tangent to the curved line itself, and a true direction of the star. We've got 3 lines coming off this boat so far. I'm not even joking.
where we would see the star if the light wasn't refracted. Second, the actual horizontal direction.
The actual horizontal direction? How'd you get that?
I want to see that refraction.
He's just established a horizontal. So he's got a single point horizontal to his position with a dangling dingleberry earth beneath this line, which if extended to the left would be why you'd understand we call this the dingleberry. He hasn't got it meeting at a tangent. It's too high. I mean, even this is wrong. Oh my God. This is awful.
We need to get his definition of refraction, number one. Number two, where did he get the horizontal from?
That's what I said. Where'd you get this horizontal from? Yeah, where'd you get that?
That is 90 degrees from vertical.
Oh, that's where he got it. 90 degrees.
From vertical.
From vertical? Where'd you get vertical from? Yeah, perpendicular to horizontal. Yeah, all horizontals are perpendicular with what? All verticals? So you'll need a flat plane to have this description of horizontal to reference. It's a horizontal plane of reference. It's the plane we reference when we level the tool with the horizon. Yeah, that's where we get horizontal from. And it's exactly what it'll do on the boat. They only use this line. And it has 90 degrees below it. That's called a ground position. Now, if you're doing it on a globe, regardless of the nonsense garbage that comes before it, you must have it meeting what they describe as a tangential plane. But the ground position meets that tangential plane. Now, it isn't tangent to anything. It's just a plane. It's established by leveling your tool with the horizon, and it has a ground position on the ground, unlike in this diagram. Horizontal, yeah, that's your baseline that the 90 degree below the star or sun or moon, whatever you're measuring basically in the sky, will meet on the ground. This isn't the ground. For you, it's a horizontal line you can't establish that is representative of the ground positions for the stars. Not on your globe, it ends. It's a total fail. This is the worst description of celestial navigation I've seen so far. Bar none.
The true elevation that is useful for navigation isn't
true elevation.
Measured
How
from
can
the
you have true
horizon.
elevation off of a tangent?
You don't. True elevation would be respect to the surface. If you're describing something's elevation, it's how high it is off the ground, off surface level. Now, if you're measuring something, it's described with respect to sea level. But those are all flat Earth. You can't get a height of anything unless you've got a surface level to describe it from. Flat Earth required, my friend.
Apparent or not. But
you know, just a second. You know what they do? They think because of a bubble sextant exists, for example, and the pilot gets horizontal with the bubble sextant and takes an angle to a celestial body above that, they think that means it's okay to just use a tangent. They don't understand that what the pilot is doing is replicating what the mariner is doing at sea level. The same thing is done on land with an artificial horizon. You're replicating what's happening at sea, where the sea surface is the horizontal plane you're referencing. I mean sea level is what you're referencing, or sea level is what you're referencing.
Yes.
They think that because the person in the airplane is just using a straight line, a horizontal line from their position, that means that's just the same thing as just having a tangent. No, the only reason that works is because it absolutely replicates what's happening on the sea, using the surface of Earth.
Parallel with it.
Yeah. Yes.
From horizontal. So this angle is what we actually want.
So not the bent one, not the curved one, not the one from the globe surface, not the tangential one, but the one that has a horizontal plane of reference established with the horizon. That's what you actually do. And one to the star itself. And the point below the star is what you actually want. Its ground position for you out in space. Now, the maps will reference the ground position with respect to the ground. That will be the horizontal plane the observer is standing on and must be standing on to measure an elevation angle. It's part of the definition. This is a complete loss. It makes no sense. It doesn't tally with what we actually do when we navigate or make maps.
But again, the only thing we can measure is this angle. So what do we do?
Sorry, the only thing you can measure is one below horizontal. That would be below surface level. So you're saying the only angle you actually need is one that's below surface level. If that was the case, why would you level the tool with respect to horizontal? You wouldn't. This is nonsense.
Well, we apply corrections. First, this angle, which is the difference between horizontal and the apparent direction to the horizon.
The difference between horizontal and the apparent direction to the horizon. So you're trying to claim that this is dip correction. That's your height above surface level. That's what you're correcting. It's height of eye correction.
Called the dip correction.
Apparent direction to the horizon? What's that? I'm not looking at what y'all are watching right now because I'm working, but apparent direction to the horizon. Right? Am I off base here? What is that?
The not real direction to the horizon?
Yes. Furthermore,
all right.
All bets are off for this dip angle correction if all lines are bent. How can you correct to anything with straight lines if you haven't got them? How's he supposed to do an accurate dip angle correction to a point out in space when the actual correction refers to the height of eye above surface level? This is nonsense again.
It is tabulated in the nautical almanacs and depends on the observer height.
What, the height above surface level? You can't get height from a globe. You don't get your height above globe level. You get your height above sea level. Sea level. Where's your dip angle correction to? Is it to the globe level? No. Is it to the sea level? No. It's to a point arbitrarily drawn out in orthographic view in space, with no straight lines to acquire it, and no straight lines to correct it. What a load of nonsense.
So, if we know how high we are above the sea level...
Boom! Then you'll need a flat earth to measure it from. You'll need a sea level to know how high you are from. So even in their own declarations, ladies and gentlemen, there will absolutely, without question, be a point that they themselves refer to the flat earth requirement they have. In this case, his height. His height above what? sea level. Just needs a little bit of flat Earth, even in this convoluted gaggle screw of globe nonsense that isn't correct. He still has to reference his height above a flat Earth.
Called the dip correction. It is tabulated in the nautical almanacs and depends on the observer height. So, if we know how high we are above the sea level,
then we've measured a flat Earth to get it.
We can find out what the dip angle is and subtract it from the sextant measurement.
That needed a flat Earth to get? Yeah, you just need to start this process by measuring your height above surface level. Brian was right all along. 3 years it's taken me. I instinctually say you start your process with an angle measurement. That's where it all starts. I said it in this show. Wrong! Brian's been trying to slap me around the face with this wet fish for 3 years.
Right.
You start by measuring your height above sea level, don't you, Brian? That's the first thing you actually do before you've even left port.
Yeah, you have to, because you need that height of height to know how high above the water in the distance your eye line is going to be. To do the correction.
Step 1, measure your height above a flat Earth. Then, wouldn't you know that, you can make your correction. Now, you may not have to do this if you're not on a boat, but he's got the example on a boat, so they're definitely going to be using a mariner's sextant, so Brian's correct. You start by measuring your height above a flat Earth. Then you set out to sea. Then, when you look at the horizon, it represents a point where you are above, because you've obviously raised your point above the deck, the flat plane that you're going to be parallel with eye level. Well, if you're using the horizon to calibrate your tool, it represents where the ground disappears into the distance at the point where the sky seems to meet it. It's still the ground, and you are above it. Therefore, there has to be a correction. And that correction, ipso facto, corrects with a parallel plane between your eye level and the height you measured at port, assuming that the horizon has dropped by that exact same measurement. That's the correction. It requires a parallel plane between you and the horizon you are measuring because you're above it. Your height is above the surface level. It's described with respect to sea level, and even our own opponents will use this flat Earth measurement to start their process of bullshit about a bendy line that meets a tangent that isn't the line we're measuring. To start that nonsensical process off, they've got to also measure their height above surface level. It's just how it is. We all know we measure a flat Earth. This guy's no different.
This will give us the apparent elevation of the star above horizontal.
So that's what we're actually measuring then. The height of the star above horizontal. Now, it's not actually its height, it's its elevation angle. You've just got your terminology messed up because you don't know what you're talking about. Meanwhile, that's its height above surface level with a ground position meeting that baseline. On the ground! Game over. Elevation angle measurements prove Earth is flat. Shout out to Vlad on 0 degrees. All horizontals are parallel with the plane of the horizon. You've taken that straight out of the dictionary. That's the definition. Yes, absolutely correct. Thank you for the super chat.
Second, this angle, which is the difference between the true direction to the star and the apparent direction, which is the tangent to the line of sight.
3 different lines. My God.
This one is called the refraction correction. It is tabulated in the nautical almanacs as well, and it only depends on how high the star is in the sky.
Which yours is above. Easily above 20 degrees. So this is just bullshit then. So your refraction mitigation, which isn't accounted for in this particular example, isn't necessary. Or wouldn't be accounted for based on the angle that you've depicted in the almanac. So this is just a lie. You've got to lie to Glurf, haven't you, Brian?
Yes, unfortunately, that is the truth. The truth is they have to lie. There's no other way around it.
You can't knock them too tough, right? Because remember what happened after the Black Swan? They were in scramble 911 mode, right? They had to come up with something. Unfortunately, what they came up with was just refraction. But I mean, this is the same thing. Like, other than ballers coming in straight telling us, like, starting the actual quote with, "Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, we measure it flat, but that that proves both." They've got to come at it from every angle, pun intended, that they can. Right? This reminds me of after the Black Swan. Now it's suspected that they're running around like chickens without heads, trying to figure out how to tell us something to make us seem wrong, when literally they're backing our claims. It's hilarious in 2024 right now. This is great.
So if we know how high we see it, specifically what the apparent elevation above the horizontal is, but we know that after subtracting the dip correction, we can subtract this correction to know how high it actually is. So...
No, we never get to know how high it actually is. We're only interested in its elevation angle to give us its ground position. But this guy's just declared we know how high the star actually is. Wrong! You have no idea what you're babbling about.
To sum up, to get the elevation angle, we take the sextant measurement, we subtract the dip correction to get the apparent elevation, then we subtract the refraction correction, and finally we get the true elevation, which we can then use for navigation. That is how it works. There are no curved adjacents, there is no need for the Earth to be flat.
So if there's no curved adjacent, there's no need for it to be a ball. You seem to have ballsed up your conclusion. If there's no curved adjacent, then where's the ball necessitated? All you're actually doing, and as described, is taking straight line measurements with respect to a calibrated tool with level, using the horizon and the actual line that you see, the star, so you can measure an angle. You don't ask the sextant about its feelings. You don't take into account globular 7/6 of a radius value, because the radius itself is derived from these exact same measurements. If you're going to suggest that the Polaris measurement that gave you the radial value has any of this garbage accounted for, it doesn't. It's a straight up angle measurement to Polaris. That's where you get R from. So to insinuate that somehow it has something to do with the angle measurement or acquisition of any other elevation angle is utterly absurd. Dip angle correction simply takes into account your height above sea level. You disclaimed the flat Earth you required when you described your height of I above the surface level, sea level. So you have also conceded that part of these measurements, as Brian has made so eloquently clear over the last 3 years, requires you describe your measurement from a flat Earth to start this process. Because you can't do any of these corrections unless you've measured your height above surface level. So surface level's needed. Flat Earth proven before you've done a damn thing.
It all works perfectly fine on the globe.
Say again?
That was my main argument with the dip correction.
Yeah.
If you remember back, what I said is that it takes it away from being just optical and brings geometry into it. Because you must measure your height above the surface, and you must then use the surface. So it ties it to the surface of Earth. Yes. And they don't want that. They want to be able to do it all on a tangent.
Look, it only took me 3 years. What do you want?
I'm sorry.
And in fact,
I wasn't watching the video. Did he actually show any or attempt to show any curved adjacents in his video? Did he attempt that earlier? Because I haven't been watching. Because his conclusion bugged me out. There are no curved adjacents, so therefore Earth doesn't need to be flat. Huh? What?
It's the wrong conclusion. There are no curved adjacent, therefore you don't need a ball. You just ballsed it up. Somehow they throw back our defence to their claim as though it's a rebuttal. There are no curved adjacents. Okay, so no curved adjacents. Therefore can't be flat. What? No, it could only be flat. You need a surface level to calibrate this whole process with. What are you talking about?
Maybe we weren't supposed to hear that part, or like we were supposed to just glance over it. I don't know, because that's a crazy conclusion to come to.
The procedures used to turn the elevation angle into a position fix heavily depend on the fact that it is a globe, but that's a topic for another video.
Wouldn't that be the topic for this video? This garbage is the talking point, is it? No, just an elevation angle off a flat baseline is what you actually do. None of this is what you actually do. But you're going to say that the actual acquisition of useful angles with respect to the surface of Earth being a sphere, which is definitely needed, is a discussion for a different topic. Oh, really? Oh, I see. Oh, there was me thinking you'd actually use this to put into practical application for navigation with a globe. No, it's just definitely in need of one when it won't give you any of the angles that are actually measured in any way, shape, or form. None of the actual measurements or descriptions of measurements he's described have any relation, even this bottom one, to the ball itself. Literally none of them. So where does the ball come into it? Aside from your apologetics, you haven't used the ball at all. Literally. None of the angles that are being used are ball angles. Even the one that comes from the bottom line sextant isn't the ball itself, is it? It's your apologies for a refracted line, because we don't see in straight lines. Meanwhile, we'll take these straight lines we get from the sextant. What a cluster screw. That was great. Whoever suggested that, I'm going to give him a proper shout out and dig out who it was, because that was well worth covering for a laugh.
What did the guy say at the end? What's his next video going to be about?
He said that's for another video. He didn't say he's going to do one. He's saying the actual useful properties of the globe that we definitely must have. Description in another video. It's not really relevant to this video. It's Daniel Samaniego. Says, if you have time, can you do a quick review of a video titled How Measuring the Elevation Angles Works on a Globe by Science It Out. It's under 5 minutes. Thank you for the super chat yesterday, Daniel. And yeah, I think we've pretty much covered that. Wonderful.
Yeah, that was a good video because it just goes to it just shows how lost our opposition are. And what's funny is if you want to actually, Nathan, I just popped a thing into Master B, a little diagram, and this shows exactly what they're actually doing, or trying to do mathematically. But just that this guy's video is like, where is the globe required for any of that? Where is it required?
It wasn't. It was apologised for at the beginning and never used after.
Yeah, it's completely irrelevant. Like, the globe is completely irrelevant in the whole situation. They just add it in. It's just this mathematical add-in in everything. It's like, who needs this thing? Do you know what I mean? It's like a button in your car that doesn't do anything. You pull up the thing and you push down the switch, and there's a button for nothing. Like, I remember when I was a child, my father used to have this button in his van, and the button did nothing. There was nothing connected to it. We used to tell you it was go fast button, and now and again he'd just go, "Are you ready?" And he'd press the button, and he'd just push on the accelerator. But I knew the button was a nothing. Like, it was just fun. Only a kid. But the button that's the globe, that button. It's a nothing. It's unnecessary. It doesn't do anything. Have you got that diagram up, Nathan? Oh, by any chance?
Yes, I did have it up while you were talking about it, with the tangential plane and the two angles. One that's actually got a line correctly. You're not even a glober. I mean, you're doing a better job of representing this.
Yeah, well, if you can just throw back up there, the red line at the bottom of the top angle off of their tangent, that is represented by the serrated line around the edge of their globe there. That is that distance in an arc. And when they bring the angle down to their equatorial plane, they must extend that out, because if that goes more than 3959, especially if it does, but they do it anyway, that's that angle that you see at the center of their globe, that's at vernal equinox. So that always extends their horizontal plane out into the celestial plane and makes the whole thing stationary. But the whole point of this is that they're then just doing the exact same thing off their tangent. They're just doing exactly the same thing at their center, but they are right-angled triangles. Because the point there, if you see H, what's written as H, is a point at the end of that serrated red line, arced red line. That is their GP point. That is their GP point on the globe. Whereas up at D there, up on D at the end of that red line at the top, that is the actual GP point. But once you curve the red line, the GP point becomes where H is. Excuse me.
At the globe point?
But they're using two right-angled triangles for that. Sorry, Chocolate.
Just show while Chocolate gathers his thoughts together, right? So Brian's showing you how tangent to a point they claim they measure at the surface of a globe that they've assumed after deriving it from flat Earth measurements leaves you with this right angle triangle to a GP point out in space, as I was trying to describe earlier. Now, for it to actually function, they then transpose that angle down into hell, an extended plane. So up to this point here would be the equatorial plane, minimum elevation angle of Polaris, and then extended out beyond that is the celestial plane that Brian just described, all flat, right? That's so it can actually function. It has to function from the center point, which is in the middle of the globe. Now, if I then transpose back to the image I've got on screen, this is taken from a navigation manual. This is how it actually functions. Now, you're measuring from the boat to the star with a 90-degree triangle. So you've got 90 degrees below the star. This is its ground position on the ground. Now, that's a big problem when you've got massive extended planes reaching your measuring point at 90 degrees, as they must be for these to function. For this process, this must be a 90-degree triangle. Now, if I go back to Brian's diagram, you can see the problem. These 90-degree triangles are not meeting the ground. And for them to have some semblance of meeting the ground, they put them in the center of the globe so that they'll actually back calculate correctly, and have an extended plane that, again, does not meet the ground. It's only on the extended celestial plane that these points have ground positions when measured from the center of hell, which we do not. You transpose from a point that also won't give you ground positions. Yeah, this is all nonsense. It's all surplus to requirements, because what are you actually doing when you follow this process? You just measure an angle to a point on the ground. Flat. It has to be flat for it to be working in this manner. And it does, and it is, and that's how our maps are made. But the ground positions are on the ground. They're not out in some extended tangent plane in space. They're on the ground. The ground just has to be flat for this to work, which is why you get this kind of convoluted gaggle screw of nonsense from globe believers, because it won't function with a globe ground. That's the bottom line. There is none of this going on in the navigation manuals. This is from a navigation manual. They just show you a triangle with the star and the flat baseline to the ground position of the star. That's how it actually works. The horizon is used to level the tool. That's all it's used for. Go ahead, Brian.
Sorry, I thought you had finished.
No, I'm done now.
Where D is, that is the actual GP point, not where H is or E. D, that's the GP point. You know what I mean? But they have to make it into H. It's like, how can you make it into H? How can you have two right-angled triangles? Because where C is at the top, where the observer is, touching the sphere there, that is the observer, and that observer requires a 90-degree angle, right? Because then it is making a parallel with the black line at the other side of the opposite of the right-angle triangle. So how can you have two 90-degree angles being connected by a curved adjacent or a curved distance? You can't have two 90-degree angles. It makes no sense. The whole measurement makes absolutely zero sense on a globe. But mathematically, this is what they have to do. Otherwise, it's either that or just give up. It's either this or give up. What?
They have to do that in order to have it make sense in terms of how it was back engineered. So the original angles giving the center point in hell on a globe have come from the area of equal elevation measurement to Polaris, the outside edge being the last point that you can see it before it breaches the horizon. Well, they say that's the outside edge of a sphere. You're like, no, because as you work your way back in, you're working your way back in with the angles off a flat plane, increasing till you get to the zenith point of Polaris itself. In other words, it's directly above your head. Well, that's the North Pole point. But between you and the outside edge, it's just a series of measurements of angles on a flat plane to Polaris, decreasing towards the horizon as you get further away from it. That's it. That's all it represents. Hence, when they say they've measured off the surface of a globe, for it to work, they have to put it in hell. So that those angles with the system itself for latitude that's wrapped around the globe will still function as an angle off a flat plane. That's the only reason. So the back engineering of a globe comes from those measurements. So as soon as they get any claim to be angle with, let's put it back on screen, this garbage, yeah, all they immediately do is put that in the center of hell in Brian's depiction. So what they say is you measuring this angle on a surface with GP points in space that aren't on the ground, that's got to work. So they put it in the center of the globe. Yeah, with an extended plane moving beyond the point where you can see Polaris, because obviously you can keep going along the flat plane beyond where Polaris doesn't exist. So hence you have this extended plane coming out the outside edge of a globe. It's like the globe is completely surplus to requirements in any of this. You don't transpose things into hell. You just take angles off a flat plane. And when you do so, their diagram has the globe dangling beneath the plane that you're actually measuring. That's what you actually end up with.
Yeah, I was explaining this out to them and with diagrams 3 years ago. And they were all denying it. 3 years ago, like I have the back in 2021 when I first started getting into it with learning from Tent. It's like, and I think Mitchell was the same back. He brought out he brought out better diagrams than me back then. And they denied they didn't want to know about it. It's like they are denying the right angle triangle. It's like they're using for their own claim. You need at least two. Well, you need three. For us, just in reality, we need two for every elevation angle measurement. The elevation angle itself, and then the other one, the other right angle triangle, that will be on top of that, which will be the zenith angle. But for them, they need three because they need both of those, and they need another one that's on an extended equatorial plane out into a celestial. They need a third one. They don't understand this, that that's how it works. They just want to ignore that part. Like, how do you? Let me put it this way. If I'm measuring an elevation angle, and let's say I'm measuring the elevation of a tree, right? An oak tree or something. Now that's a vertical angular measurement. How do I deny that's vertical? That's like getting into a car after taking the wheels off and expecting to drive somewhere. How can you deny that? It boggles my mind how you can deny the vertical.
Well, this is what's on screen now. This diagram was made by Adam. So what you've got is a 3-star fix being achieved on the right-hand side with a 90-degree below each of the stars and an extended flat plane for each of them that would massively overlap the globe surface in hell into the celestial plane. On the left, you've got what the guy described in his video, haven't you? Right? Compare and contrast. The navigation manuals were shown earlier. They've got 90-degree triangles. We're definitely not measuring any bent lines. But what the guy in his video is showing is much more similar, with your bent lines moving out to points that you can't really see and bent tangent points that you aren't really measuring. Yeah? That's far more akin to this on the left. That doesn't make sense anymore. You haven't got any 90s. You haven't got any ground positions. It's just a load of convoluted bent triangles that doesn't make any sense anymore. In reality, the navigation process is far more simple. Ground positions do actually meet the ground. They've got circles of equal elevation that are flat. Earth is not a sphere. That is not how it's navigated. And this process and measurement derivation is what gives you the globe. An extrapolation of these measurements. So, yeah, the diagram on the right is actually how it's done. 90 degrees do meet the ground, and your position along a flat baseline. Earth is measured flat. Any last points before I round out for the live audience? No? With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Right, I guess I better bosh a thumbnail out, eh? What did we talk about again?
We were just talking, me and Chocolate. Chocolate was saying that the sextants from their hoods don't have feelings like the other sextants. You know the way they're sentient, no, they're sentient. You know, they don't care about the curved lines. But they're not bothered about that. Couldn't care less. You know, but they do have feelings about other things. As Adam said, like when they don't get a Christmas card.
Absolutely. When it comes to transgender issues, sextants have got a lot to say about it.
I didn't want to say that on a live show, but I was going to say something like that. Libtard sextant.
Right, it's going to be Candace Owens on the thumbnail.
Yes, good choice.
We talked about it, didn't we? Or why not? She's got a pretty face. Hopefully it'll bring me in some clickbait.
Oh, absolutely. Candace Owens is like, when people see Candace Owens, it's like they straight away are going, hey, what's going on here? They want to see what happened.
Did Candace mention flat Earth somehow or another? Like, maybe I got it right.
Yeah, if you watch her show from last night, Chocolate, at the very end of her, she brings it up at the start, but at the very end of her show, she talks about a comment she got on this app she's on called Minect. But on the live stream, she did a little live stream, a 12-minute one day on Sunday, and she brought it up there as well. She brought it up last year as well, one time in Daily Wire when she was working for them. But she's after completely throwing the moon landings out the window, and she's down to look at flat Earth a bit now. She doesn't call herself a flat earther, but she's down to look at it.
Funny enough, I feel like with all the heat that she catches, like she would be one that is, I don't know, if she started really looking into it, she would talk about it. She would go into it. Because she's the type, like she gets hated, or she gets all types of hate from a lot of people. So I think she's at that point where she doesn't care, especially now that she got fired from the Daily Wire or whatever. So I think she would be, she would actually go in on this if she can get some real info on it.
I reckon so too. I'm after leaving comments, and I don't know if she'll give any reply to them. But I've tried to, and I did last year as well when I saw her short, the Daily Wire short that brought up the subject. I was like, and I've said stuff even in her comments since then at different times when she brought up certain topics, and I'd say something in her comments saying, you know, you need to have a look at what you're saying there. That's not correct, you know. And I've offered her if she wants to learn about it, I'll pass on information to her. You know, because I don't want her to get into this and end up talking about ether. I don't want that to happen. And she's also doesn't understand science. She's conflating pseudoscience with science. She's saying she doesn't trust the science, like not realizing what she's actually referring to as a pseudoscience and nonsense. You know, but she's right not to trust that nonsense. She's correct, but she's wrong to call that science. That's why she's getting it wrong.
That's just it, though, right? That's what we have COVID to thank for that, right? There are a lot of people, normies, who just trusted the science, trusted the doctors and scientists and everybody, and now they don't because they kind of played themselves with all this COVID nonsense and trust the science, and literally the science they're telling us to trust is not trustable. It's not even science. It's insanity. So, I mean, I think that helps a lot of people wake up.
Well, she said herself. She actually said she commented on something that she played a clip from Andrew Tate. She commented on something Andrew Tate said, which is very true. He said, "If you come up from the school of hard knocks, you're not trusting in the first place. So it's a lot harder to get one over on you." But she made a point. She was saying, or Andrew Tate was making a point that the people at the top who have a lot of money, they're not fools. The people at the bottom who have very little, they're not fools, but they have no money. There's all the people in the middle. I think it was either him or Candace Owens made the point. It's all the people in the middle who just go along with things. They just blindly go along with stuff. Do you know what I mean? But they have no discernment, it seems, or lacking in discernment. Maybe not none, but they're very much lacking in discernment. They just trust and go along with stuff. They just accept the claimed expert. which could be an astrophysicist. What does that mean? What are you an expert in? you're an expert in a fantasy. I mean, fair enough, but it doesn't mean anything. There's no relevance in reality. People are if you deal with, what I mean, if you come up from poor conditions, you learn not to trust people and things a lot faster, don't you?
I think you are giving this guy in the video too much credit, and everything he was saying was just nonsense. And giving him a credit that he knows was 706 RA or something like that. What this refraction bullshit is about. He doesn't know anything about it. And it's against everything, every rule of reality that he was saying. So it's nothing to point out. People don't understand that.
Yeah, there's none of that in celestial navigation, Johnny. Sure there's not. There's none of that. There's no corrections for horizon height. That doesn't happen. Sure there isn't. Horizon is just horizon. You don't correct for it. Sorry.
Yeah, but you were talking about the 706 and so on and so on. I don't think you know anything about that. He is just making things up, and a curved line in the beginning as an elevation angle is so absurd. I don't know what to say. And you cannot make any angle from a curved line elevation angle. And elevation angle has nothing to do with fraction at all. Because there's no fraction in the sky. So what to say is just nonsense. Don't give him a credit at all. It doesn't have to discuss it. Just say, hey, this fraction that he's talking about, the point is it's close to the surface, and it's about the surface level. Some kind of fraction can happen. Yeah, it's because of the density in the air, and you can have some fraction of light close to the surface. But if you have an elevation angle to the sun or something like that, there's no fraction there in the count. And also, you never can get any angle with curved lines. That's just finito there. And he's talking about the tables. You don't know what the table is about. And people are talking about dip angle. There is nobody is using any dip angle or term of dip angle in a celestial navigation. They are talking about dip correction to the sea level. And that is the dip correction to the sea level is a zero. Or you can see it also as a degree of 180 degrees. Yeah. If you have a big understanding what it's about, then you will never talk like that or make a video of nonsense like that. I don't know if you should give him a credit or even talk about it. But this may be good because the people live this and we have to do it. But I'm pissed off.
Just for the recording, Johnny, what did you do for a living that would make you so knowledgeable about this? Just for the benefit of the recording, Johnny.
I have been a sea captain before, but I am very close to retirement. So,
just for people that may not have heard that, just because people may not have heard you, Johnny, you can't. Your line is bad, and obviously your accent. But Johnny is a retired, or more or less retired, ship's captain, and he used to navigate with a sextant, celestial navigation. Sorry about that, Johnny.
So there is no question about it. And all of my training, but I have to admit, we didn't have. We are not using the sextant, all the acting to do our things. But everybody has to know how to do it, and we have to go through it, and we have some training to do it, and so on and so on. And we have to understand what it's about. And also, you don't have to know how. You don't have to have so much training with sextant. You just have to understand the process, because everything that we are doing on the scout, and using the tables and everything and so on, that is using the terminology and the anchors and so on and so on to do that. It doesn't matter if you are using modern technology or whatsoever. You are using the same process. So if you just understand the process, then you also understand how to use it.
Did you follow that, Brian?
Yes, I did follow some of it. It's hard to. Johnny's line is not great, and his accent makes it difficult. So I followed some of it. But basically, Johnny's just saying that for the audience, what Johnny's saying, because we have talked to Johnny before many times, what Johnny's saying is that all this nonsense they're talking about, the ballers are talking about concerning sextants and celestial navigation, it's a load of rubbish. He said it requires a horizontal plane. It requires Earth to be a horizontal plane, and you are using right-angle triangles. But they just don't want to accept this. And I have yet to hear any of them really address Johnny on the topic. You know, anyway, I haven't heard them do that.
Yeah, nobody addressed it, Johnny.
Oh, I'm very sorry if I am not using the best accent that you want me to use.
That's all right. You just sound like a pirate.
Maybe you have to change my voice just a little bit so it's more easier. But what I'm trying to say is that the elevation angle cannot be bending. We know that. And I'm talking about you don't have to know so much how to use sextant or use sextant if you understand the process in the modern technology that you are using to navigate all the instruments that you are using today. If you understand the process, this technology or the navigation, what it's about, then you don't really have to know so much about sextant. But I know about sextant, and I understand how it is done. And every navigation is about angular measurement with a reference to our flat plane. No question about it. And if you really read about it in all the documentation and from Army or from all the organizations that has something to do with it, then you will always find reference to a flat plane, no rotating flat plane. And that is also how it is done. If somebody is talking about tip angle, that's not a term that is used in celestial navigation. The only thing that's the tip is a tip correction. Tip correction is to 0, 180, or a horizontal view. That's fine. And then it has to be a parallel to a flat plane that you can call 0. But it's also called, because a 180 is also anchored against the elevation angle. Therefore, 180 is the anchor. If you are 50 degrees angle, elevation angle to the sun, then you have 2 lines that is 180. There's also degree, 180 degrees. But you can also think about it as a 0, because that is reference to a sea level as a 0. So
Hey, Brian, can you give him the mic again and have him explain it again? I didn't quite get it. Maybe for the 6th time with a 5-minute monologue, I'll understand them.
Well, the
They
basics.
didn't understand because I was trying.
just as what Johnny was trying to say is when you keep on hearing the ballers talking about the dip angle, it's not referred to as the dip angle, it's the dip correction. It's just height of eye. What I find with the ballers is a lot of the ballers, this is something I was going to say when Johnny was finished, QE, it's worth asking the ballers in Discord, what's the difference between the dip correction and the height of eye correction? Because a lot of them don't know that they're the same thing.
Yeah, I know. I do it. I do it often.
Do it. All right, I didn't know you did that.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of fun.
I didn't know you did ask them that question because a lot of them don't realize that they're the same thing. And a lot of them actually think, this is something worth asking them if they want to bring up the subject. A lot of them actually think that you measure the dip when you're out at sea.
Yeah, I know.
They think that the dip changes because in their head, the horizon is changing its position. It's going up and down because of some kind of globe refraction.
Yeah.
So they think that you're measuring the dip based off of basically, and then you're calculating this dip you've measured with your height of eye to come up with how much correction you need. They think you're doing all this kind of, the dip with your height of eye gives a distance to their refracted horizon, not refracted, and then you calculate a correction off of that. That's what they think is going on.
Yeah, I know. I whip them around by their shoulders every once in a while. When I get bored, I'll bring it out. I got the citation that states that you take the dip, your dip correction at port, and it's an actual measurement from your feet to the water, and it'll change based on how heavy the ship's laden. So I asked him, I said, where can you get a dip angle correction that changes? Well, out there in the sea tides, refraction changes.
When you start throwing stuff off the boat.
That was a pretty good impersonation of them.
Yeah, it's a good time. I do that and then poke them in the eye with forks. Sometimes I just give them a piece of colored tape, different colored tape, and it keeps them busy for hours.
That's funny.
You know what? Some of them, you'd nearly be thinking that they would be fascinated by color tape because they're so wrong. I mean, sometimes some of them are so incorrect, not just about one thing. They could be like incorrect about 7 things in a row.
Yeah, but don't interrupt them after the first 2. Don't interrupt them. They got to get all 7 things wrong that are wrong.
Yeah.
What about Jesse last week?
Tell them the colored tape proves globe. See where that gets them.
Say that again, Chocolate.
I said, tell them that the colored tape proves the globe and see how far that gets.
Be here for hours. You give a shout out to my show today? Nathan Burger.
No, I didn't. Sorry.
I didn't hear one.
All right. That's okay. Notice that little subtle change.
Sorry.
I was going to say, notice that little subtle change of genders. What's up, boys? How you feeling, Nathan? Doing better?
Yeah, I'm a bit better.
Okay.
And girls.
Oh, I didn't know the girls were here. What's up, Bugger?
He's asleep.
Oh, crap.
He had a wild night with all the kids last night. We had a friends get together, so
That's deep. What are all their favorite colors?
oh no.
What if hairspray's censored? Does that mean we're gonna have a bad hair day?
I just want to know, Chewy, what's your favorite color?
Say again?
What's your favorite color?
Is that John? I'm gonna need a translator.
What's
your favorite color?
That helped.
You know, you're talking about your tape, the color of the tape. What's your favorite color? That's my question. It's not hard to understand.
I don't understand them, dudes. Maybe it's
He's asking what your favorite color is, John.
My favorite color, turquoise.
What? What is that?
I was going to say teal or something.
What's that?
Might as well say lavender.
It's a porpoise that's turning.
Yeah, it's something purple. I think it might be my Bluetooth headset that let my voice you cannot understand so well. So I will just go on with. And then maybe I will talk later. I'm coming in front of my computer. Let's say so.
Oh yeah, that makes a world of difference, Johnny.
Yeah.
How come you're not saying that today, Ian?
No, today's show was brought to you by Shut Up Neo Productions.
Oh, he's muting.
I'm sorry, I'm in my brother's car.
Someone's off mute there. Is it Kiwi?
Yeah, sorry. I was playing. I didn't know there was any audio on the personal video.
Where's Nottingham noise gone to? Wow, this is like getting blood out of a stone, huh?
Oh, it's 4 minutes to Wapner.
What? 4 minutes to what?
That's Rain Man.
Hey, Kiwi, have you ever seen a movie called Born After Reading?
No.
You know the Coen brothers? They've made a lot of movies. They're very established.
Coen brothers.
Coen, yeah. C-O-E-N. Coen.
Coen.
Yeah, Coen, the Jewish, I think. They made it. It's actually a comedy. Now, they made a load of great movies, but they made this. It's actually a comedy. So I don't know how to explain it. I didn't watch it when it first came out. I only watched it recently. And it's been out since 2016 or 2011 or something. And it's absolutely brilliant. The nonsense that goes on in this, all I say is that I reckon you would like it because it points out a lot of stupidity. The whole thing is based around basically massive problems that can be created by really stupid people. I won't go into it because I don't want to overdo it. It's just if you get a chance to watch it, I reckon you'd enjoy it. Right up to I was literally up at the very, very last sentence of the movie to watch it. The very last sentence had me rolling.
Well, let me know when it's on Netflix.
I can't because your Netflix and my Netflix are different.
Communists. It's 1 minute to Wapner. 1 minute.
746, 747.
You'll catch
was
the
how
irony
lumpy-
later on today.
Yeah, that's how lumpy gas sounded last week.
Where's Adam at? Adam. Evening.
It's afternoon.
Ah, there he is. I knew I'd get
I'm still at work. I'm just clearing up, hopefully to get home. See you at 7.
doing some pharmacia, huh?
Yep. Pharmacopoeias.
From the from the Principias. You ever look up that word in scripture, by the way?
It means sorcery.
What, farmer or princer?
Yeah. Look up sorcery and get like a Greek translation.
Yeah, I'll have farmer in there, won't it?
It's pharmacia. Just FYI.
Yeah, I know. Look. When after the fall, yeah, lots of devils, yeah, and fallen angels come and teach man. If you read the book of Enoch, I know where my skills come from. Yeah, it's the teachings of a fallen angel.
Burn him.
Isn't it? I don't know which one. It's Azazel and his lot, isn't it? That cause all this. Azazel. Yeah.
Azazel.
Yeah. Azazel. That's another way.
Yeah, you English guy. You can't pronounce squat, can you?
That was the demon from Fallen, or angel, I guess, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, you watched the movie too, Denzel Washington, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've come across that name in a few different places, but yeah, that's the one that stands out the most. Azazel.
The happy ending to that movie.
It's not finished yet, that movie.
Time is on my side. Yes, it
is. I don't think he read the Book of Revelation, though.
I'm saying we're waiting for that great white throne judgment, then that movie can finish.
Great White Throne Judgment. That's way, way, way past the nightmare.
Yeah, but that's when the book finishes.
What, your autobiography?
Well, look, I hope to get a couple of mentions. But no, not my autobiography. But thank you for the compliment. Powerful.
1 minute to Wapner. 30 seconds to Wapner. You gonna be on the show later?
Yes, yeah. I'm just trying to get everything sorted now, so I'm gonna get on my way home and see you at 7.
That's a while from now. Prepare yourself.
What we got tonight?
It Wits it again.
A show?
Dave or
Wits it. We got Boy Zero Skygrifter having a little discussion with the blowed up savant.
Who's that?
You have to tune in to find out.
Is it the big guy, the bear? What's his name? That guy?
What?
What's his name?
He's
Owen
asking if it's
Benjamin.
Owen Benjamin.
No?
The blowed up savant. This is going to be one of these names that you give to someone.
It's
they have.
It's highly appropriate. It's not.
Okay.
It's right on point. You'll see.
I'm not saying that you're not good at being on point with the names. But what happens is that the names end up, when we're referring to that person, we have to end up using that name, and nobody knows who we're talking about.
Yeah, I know. I go back and try
an in-joke.
I go back and try to find videos. Like I'll get a name and I said, "Oh yeah, I did a treatment on that," and I put the name in the search bar in the studio, and it comes back. There's nothing in here.
Yeah. Like Betty, she couldn't remember Blue Marble Science because she was so used to the name that you have on them, the Hillbilly Blue Boys or whatever. So used to that, and she couldn't remember his actual YouTube name.
Redneck Star.
Yeah, she typed that into the search engine, got no responses. What?
He just interrupted you with a Victory Royale. He's playing a computer game. I don't see how that's going to help his YouTube channel. I really don't. Playing, computer games. I don't get that. You're supposed to be present on your own show.
I am. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.